Good afternoon. City of Southport, Board of Aldermen, June 11th, 2026. Meeting is now called to order. Thank you for those in attendance and those watching remotely. We welcome you. Our invocation will be by Reverend Annette Clemens. She was born in Southport. She is pastor of Carvers Creek AME Zion Church, and her home church is Browns Chapel AME Zion Church of Southport. This invocation will be followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand.
This afternoon, oh God, thanking you for your mercy and for your grace. For God, truly mercy suits our case. And Father, we thank you to be able to gather in places like this, oh God, to take care of the business of the city. We lift up the city of Southport before you right now in the mighty name of Jesus. We lift up the leadership, oh God, that they will serve with humility, oh God, with integrity and with love, oh God. For Father, we know that there comes a day when we're all going to have to give an account. So Father, we pray that all that is done here be pleasing in thine sight. This is your servant's prayer, and I pray it in the mighty name of Jesus, who is the Christ. Amen.
Amen. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Reverend Clemens, for those beautiful remarks. Our invocation will remember grace and mercy and humility. So thank you as we do the people's work. Item D is special recognition. First will be the presentation by the FP Tower Incorporated. They are not here, so y'all may have seen this in the paper, and we'll bring them back at a later meeting. I'll read the two proclamations for this evening: the Goonie Bird Proclamation and the Juneteenth Proclamation. And if you're with the Goonie Bird Artist Appreciation, if you would like to come up and join me. Oh, great. Thank you. Hey. Okay, great. All righty. City of Southport Goonie Bird Artist Appreciation Proclamation. Whereas the anonymous artist behind Southport's beloved Goonie Birds has brightened our community one colorful creation at a time, proving that a little imagination, a splash of paint, and a generous heart can make a difference. And whereas though her whimsical and unmistakable Goonie Birds, she has sparked smiles, inspired conversations, and occasionally sent people on delightful adventures to discover where the next Goonie Bird might appear. And whereas while she has chosen to remain anonymous, her artwork has become instantly recognizable, and her kindness has become a cherished part of the Southport experience. And whereas her creativity has transformed simple pieces of art into symbols of joy, encouragement, and community spirit, reminding us that happiness is often found in the most unexpected places and things. And whereas beyond spreading joy through her Goonie Birds, she has generously shared her artwork in support of numerous charitable organizations and community causes, proving that kindness, like a Goonie Bird, has a way of showing up wherever it is needed most. And whereas whenever a local cause has needed support, she has consistently answered the call, demonstrating that generosity and community spirit have a way of spreading throughout a community, much like the excitement of spotting a Goonie bird. And whereas through her talent, compassion, and quiet dedication to making the world a little brighter, she has enriched the lives of residents and visitors alike and has become a treasured part of Southport's unique character. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Joseph P. Hayden, Mayor of the City of Southport, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do hereby commend and extend the heartfelt appreciation of the City of Southport to the anonymous Goonie Bird artist for her lasting contributions and thank her for making Southport a little brighter, a little kinder, and a lot more colorful through the joy, encouragement, and sense of connection inspired by her Goonie birds. Like we stand here in the good picture, so stand up front. This is for you guys. Okay, so stand up front. I asked if you wanted to go to parties, they said they didn't.
Thank you so much. Thank you on behalf of artists who is the heart of our group. And then we have group of supporters, and shout out to Mr. Newberg artists. And we also have community that makes all of this happen. So the village project.
Thank you for this. It's a good resemblance of me, I think. Look at that. Next proclamation, City of Southport, Juneteenth proclamation. Whereas on September 22nd, 1862, Abraham Lincoln issued the Emancipation Proclamation declaring that as of January 1st, 1863, all enslaved people in our nation will be thenceforward and forever free. And whereas it took almost 3 more years of conflict to end the Civil War. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas, and announced freedom to some of the last enslaved people in the United States. And whereas Juneteenth is recognized as the oldest nationally celebrated commemoration of the ending of slavery in the United States and serves as an opportunity to reflect on our nation's history, honor the resilience and achievements of African Americans, and celebrate the progress made toward equality and justice. And whereas Juneteenth encourages all Americans to learn from the past, recognize the contributions of African Americans to our communities and nation, and work together to foster understanding, respect, and opportunity for all people. And whereas the City of Southport joins communities across North Carolina and the nation in recognizing the significance of Juneteenth and celebrating the diversity, strength, and unity that enrich our community. Now, therefore, I, Dr. Joseph P. Hayden, Mayor of the City of Southport, on behalf of the Board of Aldermen, do proclaim June 19th, 2026 as Juneteenth Day in the City of Southport and encourage all residents to observe this occasion through reflection, education, community involvement, and celebration of the enduring principles of freedom and equality. I have opening remarks concerning the Historic Preservation Commission and the local historic district overlay map amendment and standards. John Julius Dozier, River Pilot. Bonner Herring, Dr. Carter Childs, Travis Childs, his descendants. I hear you. Ephraim Goss, River Pilot. Catherine Huffam, descendant. I hear you. Thomas Brinkman, River Pilot. Tommy Harrelson, descendant. I hear you. Families of Tunstall, Hickman, Lachlan, Davis, descendant Betsy Carroll. I hear you. Citizens, Mr. Howard, the son of Southport, former mayor, and his wife BJ. I hear you. Paul Swinson, owner of Provision Company. I hear you, sir. Former Mayor Sandy Spencer, a daughter of Southport. I hear you. As mayor, I heard from all of you, every citizen that wanted to comment on this issue. So for many against the historic district as currently proposed, at the mayor's town hall and the public hearing, you, the majority of citizens in the district, have asked us to consider alternatives. And what was so good about both of the town hall and the public hearing, that I believe everyone that wanted to speak publicly and make their wishes known were able to do so. I hear you, and this board hears you. Moving forward, historic preservation will be a voluntary advisory committee. It will not be a quasi-judicial board. It will be a committee, not a commission. I heard you. I saw the signs. Historic preservation is still a major focus for our city, as it is for you. The method is what was not agreed upon. I believe we now have a compromise in which we can move forward and allow the city staff and Historic Preservation Committee to revise the present document. So citizens will have guidelines to help them if they so choose with new buildings, homes, and major renovations. Historic preservation and property rights retained with a voluntary advisory committee and no quasi-judicial elements. Now let us turn to how we prioritize the issues for this evening. We have 5 public hearings, including the most important public hearing on the city budget. That should be our main focus this evening. I want to reassure all citizens that historic preservation is important to our city, to the First Lady, and to me as mayor. The evidence is obvious. We held a patriotic and inspiring first flag raising on the returned replica of the Southport Weather Tower. We can all agree on historic preservation and projects like this, and I believe we now have a consensus and agreement as how we move forward in this endeavor. You may or may not know that there's a Senate Bill 1047, a regulatory reform, Section 15. It states that 50% of the residents in a proposed historic district must request that designation, and local government must adopt by 3/5 vote. I'm estimating tonight that if that vote was taken today, that under the new guidelines of a historic preservation committee, a voluntary committee, voluntary aspect, that it would pass by more than 50% easily. And so that is where we are. Give us time to bring this forward. Your input will be there, and we'll move forward in this endeavor. So thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Item E is public comment. You have 3 minutes, name, address, and a topic. And if you would, save your comments that are specific to one of the public hearings for that time when we open it up. So, Madam Clerk.
Rich, are you wanting to speak on the public hearing for the budget? Okay. Jody Wilman.
Yeah, Jody, she's going to roll you to the closer to the microphone or bring it to you so we can hear you.
I think that as a kid, when I was little, all my neighbors came to my porch in my neighborhood, and you don't see that at all in this town anymore. And I think that this town and the citizens of this town need to think about what we want to, what we're providing for when it comes to a historical district. It should be the people out here that are in that area should be taking care of this problem, not you as a board have to do it. I think the people that live in these districts and what you choose as a district should be the ones policing that district and making sure that the houses are built back as close to what they looked like before they were tore apart. We have a lot outside that district that needs to be looked at also. So you see, this is what the board needs to learn, and this is what the citizens do. We need to work together to figure out a common goal. And sitting at a bar and not taking care of this is not, and expecting this six to do it. That ain't gonna happen. I hate to say it to the ones out here, but we all need to come together for the common goal that we want to. And I don't think a building is necessarily what Old Southport's about. It's the people in the town. We can build any kind of building, but what is the people in the town doing to be nice to each other? Does that not make sense?
It does. Yes. Thank you, Jody. Well said. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
I have a letter I'm going to read. To the City of Southport Mayor, Board of Aldermen, and staff. As a Southport voter, business operator, and resident at 504B West Brunswick Street, I am writing in regard to item O on the agenda for the June 11th, 2026 meeting of the Southport Board of Aldermen. North Carolina case law resulting from Booney Publishers versus Burlington City Council requires that a municipal government must disclose certain material information before discussing a possible purchase of private property, specifically the address or specific location of the property, the names of the property owners, and the proposed purpose for acquiring the property. I request that this information be made available to the public during tonight's meeting prior to closed session to discuss this matter. Thank you. Jason Robbins.
Thank you. Who's next, Madam Clerk?
Jeremy, did you want to speak at public comment? No, okay. Kathy Cabral.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Cabral, and I live at 308 West West Street. I had planned to speak about the Historic Preservation Commission, and I want to thank the mayor for his comments. And I think that was the right way to go. It's hard to say at this point whether or not more than 50%, whether more than 50% would be in favor of a historic district in Southport. And I look forward to seeing the revised guidelines and how that will work on a voluntary basis. So, but I did want to thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Katie Boyd,
It is. Welcome, Rose.
Thank you. I feel like this should be orange because I feel like the Lorax. I have warned everybody for 23 years. I do historic ghost tours. And my stories don't just come from a book that I picked up for free, but it came from, like Jody was talking about, it came from going to people's house, listening to people's grandparents, going through attics of stuff and newspaper records. And I have put together lovingly for 23 years a magnificent product. And in that 23 years, I've had to be a good steward of this history, which speaks to the issue of historic preservation, which means you educate the children at the schools for free. It means you clean up graveyards for free. It means you clean up after storms in your neighbors' houses for free for 23 years. And I've not asked one thing for 23 years, but I'm asking you this. And this is what worries me about historic preservation. And Mayor Hayden, I really do appreciate your words. Because if one thing I think we can all agree on in this room is that in our own way, we love Southport. And it's hard to stop progress. But with oral history in particular, it's especially pervasive. It would be akin to us taking as I've said in like Our State magazine, a chainsaw to the Indian Trail tree. How many of you would be up in arms about that? What if I said somebody's going to put a Dollar General on Fort Johnston's lawn? How many of you would be upset about that? And we have a company that's come in that's not followed one iota of this tour ordinance that I've had to follow for years. Take my business, take my individual stories that are my intellectual property and operate under your noses. And that is what worries me when we talk about historic preservation, because these are just words unless you implement them. I can go down this ordinance and give you 5 reasons why we need to be worried about that. So when it comes to historic preservation, it's not just, I know I do the ghost walk, and ironically speaking, walk the walk. But that's what I'm going to ask all of you to consider doing, is taking a look with me at this ordinance as it speaks to historic preservation and there's some caveats in here that are useful. In closing, we have a duty to not only respect our shared history, but you have a privilege and a duty to also share in protecting that. And it's not an easy one. But I'm asking you to take the opportunity to do what you are called to do, each and every one of us. And not only that, protect our local businesses. I will also say in closing, because I probably don't look at time very well. My husband tells me I'm running late for everything. See? Oh, is that my timer? When it comes to our local businesses, and especially, we cannot allow vulture businesses to come in, view us as carcasses and be parasitic and feed. But the people that operate in this town give back to our town. Thank you.
Thank you. Madam Clerk?
Steve Moore, did you want to speak at public comment or at a public hearing? Public comment, okay.
Good evening, Mayor, members of the Board of Aldermen, City Manager, and residents. Tonight, I want to speak about public trust. Southport, I'm sorry, I will back up. I think I left out my address. My name is Steve Moore and I reside at 102 Park Avenue. Tonight, I want to speak about public trust. Southport is a special place. We are fortunate to have engaged citizens, dedicated employees, and elected leaders willing to serve. Public trust is the foundation that allows all of that to work. Over the past year, there have been matters involving elected officials that generated public discussion and concern. The legal process has addressed those matters, and I totally respect that. My concern is not the legal outcome or outcomes. My concern is the silence. Several weeks ago, I emailed the mayor, city manager, and select members of this board regarding a matter that had received quite a significant amount of public attention. I did not ask anyone to agree with me. I did not ask anyone to take action. I simply asked for acknowledgement that my concerns as a citizen had been received. I have not received a response from anyone, and that was 14 days ago. To me, public trust is not about whether we agree. Public trust begins with listening. It begins with acknowledging citizens that take time to participate in their government. The same principle applies to decisions before this board, including issues such as historic preservation. Citizens deserve to know where issues stand and what decisions are being considered and when those decisions will be made. The same principle applies to the budget. I support adding police officers. Public safety is uber important, and our officers do an excellent job of protecting our community. Good governance also means looking carefully at timing, priorities, and long-term planning. If the city can phase in the hiring of new officers over several months, creating savings in the upcoming budget, which I do have experience with state budgets, about 30 years of them, while still fully funding these positions in future budgets, that is responsible planning. It demonstrates that growth and fiscal stewardship can work together. I would also encourage the board to reflect on how your meetings are conducted. The purpose of public comment is to be heard, is for citizens to be heard. The purpose of the board during that time is to listen. Finally, public trust is shaped far beyond these walls. Social media, local news outlets, and online discussions have become the front door through which many people experience Southport. Facts do not disappear because they're uncomfortable. What builds confidence is transparency, communication, and leadership. Citizens do not expect perfection from elected officials. We expect transparency. We expect accountability. We expect respectful discussion, and we expect decisions to be made and explained. Trust is earned one decision, one conversation, and one response at a time. Thank you for your time.
Madam Clerk.
Larry Cabral.
Harry Cabral, 308 West. Mayor, Alderman, I wanted to get up here because of my behavior during the last hearing. I disregarded your request for decorum and for civility, and I wanted to publicly apologize to Ms. Bray because I publicly made a comment about her defending her position, which she had every right to do. So that was all I wanted to say.
Thank you. Madam Clerk.
Ed Dice. Do you want to speak at public comment or public hearing? Or none? Siegfried De Schmidt. You want to do public hearing too, right?
Yes. Mayor, Board of Aldermen, good evening. My name is Siegfried de Smet, 319 West Brunswick Street. I had prepared some words regarding the HPC, but Mayor, you countered them extremely well, for which thank you for what you said to us. So I'm going to make this up on the fly now, but I was going to talk about respect for the people that live in the historic district. And I would like to continue that thought for the words that I'm going to use right now. We heard you, Mayor. We heard your words before the election. We heard them after the election. And we hear them tonight. But words without action are just hollow, empty words. And I don't think we are here to continue this discussion based on promises and on words. But I hope, and I think I can speak for the red shirts here, but I hope that tonight we can put those words into action and have a discussion about what you just shared with us, Mayor, and have a vote. Have a vote that you are dismantling, abandoning the Historic Preservation Commission, and that you are replacing it by a voluntary group of people that care for Southport and that will help anybody that plans to build or repair his home here, that we will be there with guidelines and support to ensure they do the right thing. But if you do not vote tonight for the promise that you made this evening to us, Mayor, then it's just hollow words. And I hope that we all can agree that we are now moving beyond the phase of hollow words and promises, but will vote and make sure that this quasi-judicial board is no longer in place when we all go home tonight. Thank you for your attention.
Madam Clerk.
Jim Jericho, are you speaking for public comment or public hearing? Okay. And then I believe everybody else that haven't called is for a public hearing. If not,
Okay, David Miller.
Good evening, Mayor and the board. Hopefully, this person will not get too upset with me, but we have an individual in the crowd that has done something very, very special. She's a resident of Southport. Her husband's Captain Bullard of the fire department. And Mary Bullard has passed, and she's a family nurse practitioner. And I think everybody should give her a hand for the accomplishment she's done. Thank you.
Yes, congratulations, Mary, on that great achievement. Stand up, Mary, so everyone can see you. I know you're mortified. There we go. Item F is the ethics statement. If any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time.
Mr. Mayor, I have the appearance of a conflict on the ABC board. My brother has applied for that board.
All right. Thank you, Alderman Kelly. Anyone else? Okay, thank you. So noted. Item G, approval of the agenda.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like for us to add an item to the agenda. based on what you said earlier about the HPC, I would love for us to add HPC as the first item to the agenda so we can formalize what you said and have a vote to send it back to staff for guidance and back to the HPC for the new guidelines to come forward to us again.
Okay, we have a motion.
Second.
We have a second. Any discussion on this before? I'll ask the city attorney, is that necessary to do this in terms of moving forward, or?
Sir?
It's up to the, okay. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Yeah, I'm asking for discussion.
Yeah, we have an ordinance that establishes the Historic Preservation Commission. That would require dismantling that, which is to do that, there's a process. And then replacing it with what we would want to replace it with. At this point, I would be happy to support a motion to ask staff to come back to us with information about what our paths forward can be to get to what we want to do. I mean, there are processes. We can't just forget the fact that we have an ordinance establishing something. So we have to get rid of the ordinance, and there's a process for that. Then if we're going to create something else, there's a process for that. So while this doesn't say we don't want to get there, we do need to do it the right way. So would you be interested in amending your ordinance or altering your ordinance to?
It's a motion, but.
I'm sorry, your motion to ask staff to come back to us with the appropriate language for what we need to do to go forward with this. All the steps that we need to
Well,
take.
she's just trying to get it.
Well, I'm just getting it on the agenda so we
We
can
can
do
instruct
that.
the city manager to do exactly what you're talking about without any of this. So with or without it being on the agenda.
But we didn't
So
we didn't have consensus to be able to have the city manager go in that direction. So I just wanted to put it on the agenda so we could vote on it and get consensus.
So the motion tonight is to add it to the agenda. And I'll just say, let's call the vote and then certainly bring this back at next month's meeting.
I don't think that's what the motion is.
No, see, the motion was to add it to the agenda and then to vote to dismantle it.
Not dismantle, to give guidance to staff to figure out what next steps
Well,
are to be able
we
to bring
can-
that back to us.
We can give them guidance without, a motion or putting it on the agenda. I mean, you don't want to shred your term paper if you're going to revise it. And so I don't think we need to do that. And I think everyone in here would agree with that metaphor. So
Just call the vote.
So, yeah, just in terms of whether or not the motion is to, whether we add it to the agenda. By
Mr.
show
Mayor.
of hands.
May I speak? May I
Oh,
speak?
sure, discussion.
First, we had a historic preservation committee that worked on this document of 103 pages for 3.5 years. They have sent that document to the Board of Aldermen. The mayor has had a workshop, which I attended and greatly appreciate. We've also had a public hearing and have heard the comments. And I recorded all the comments on this page, 62 of them, and it was at 80-20 no. I do think to formalize the process, that the Board of Aldermen, as Siegfried mentioned, should vote to reject the document that was sent to the Board of Aldermen. We've had a workshop, we've had public comment, and I appreciate the mayor's comments, but we should have a vote tonight to end the document as it currently exists.
Paul, do you remember the street sweeper hitting our agenda 3 times? We voted yes all 3 times, but just because we vote on something doesn't mean it's not coming back tomorrow. So at the end of the day, we've got a lot on this agenda. The agenda was set last week, and I would just encourage that we call the vote.
That's what I was getting ready to do until I was, no, not by you, but I had comments, further discussion. All right. All in favor of putting the Historic Preservation Commission on the agenda, raise your hand. Okay. All opposed? And I also am opposed, so the motion does not carry. Thank you. We're going to give staff has been instructed, and we're going to revise our term paper. We're not going to shred it. And if you can't believe me, then that's on you. That's not on us. We're going to move in the direction that I stated and give staff time to revise it and bring it back. It's not going to be quasi judicial. It's going to be voluntary, but we have to be involved. There has to be structure for it. And so we'll move forward, and we'll have historic preservation, and it will be in a way that everyone will be pleased with.
Mr. Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to approve the agenda.
Motion to approve the agenda as written, and there's by Alderman Carroll and a second by Alderman Mosteller. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? So 2 opposed. So 4-2. All right. Thank you. Item H, approval of the consent agenda. Okay, good. We have approval of the consent agenda and a second. And quickly, there's support for the Brunswick County bond issue. We have 2 finance budget issues, and we have the Bro Law Firm rate adjustment. All in favor?
Mr. Mayor, may I
like
make
to
a comment?
Yes.
The concern I have about the consent agenda is, the Board of Aldermen have not had a discussion as a group about the school bond referendum. We did hear a presentation from the school board, a PowerPoint presentation. But we as a board have not talked about the positives, the negatives, how it'll impact Southport. What are we getting out of the school bond other than a new PA system at Southport Elementary School with the possibility of our county taxes going up 8 cents? So my concern is the process here. That's all.
Well,
So perhaps we just
have-
pull that from the consent agenda and add it to the agenda
No,
for
we can talk
discussion.
about it now. It's fine. What it
I believe that, if I
just,
may,
well, Madam,
this is simply a support for this to go to referendum, at which we will all individually vote on this. I'd like to see this go to referendum. I mean, everybody should have the opportunity to be heard on what they want to spend on the schools.
And
This is not saying that we should vote for this. This should simply that the
we support the referendum.
support
Yeah.
putting it on referendum.
we
And I
support
believe they
educate.
already have the support for it. but-
We support
However,
educating children. I mean, that's wherever they are in Brunswick County, and that's all this letter says.
this letter says that I urge all eligible voters to join us in voting on this important measure. It doesn't say yes or no. I agree. I just am concerned that the appearance is that we're encouraging people to vote for and not look at it themselves.
I will amend my motion to approve the consent agenda and just ask that we pull that item and place it on the regular agenda item as item 8 for discussion. Because my children will go to South, Middle, and High, even though I live in Southport, Mr. Gross.
Yeah, I'm fine. I'd just like to have a discussion before we go doing a consent on a document that we may or may not agree with.
So we have a motion.
Okay, we have a motion to approve the consent agenda with the exception of item 1, and that will become item I-8. Any further discussion? That was your motion, Alderman Carroll, and there was a second, okay, by Alderman Mosteller. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. So consent agenda is approved. Thank you. Next will be item I, and that is item I-1, shoreline stabilization. This is a process that began under Mayor Robert Howard, who appointed a committee under Chairman Tommy Harrelson. They gave us an excellent report then. We made continued progress in my first term as mayor with the assistance of our state legislator, Representative Charlie Miller and Senator Bill Rabon, $5 million for this project. And always, I'm grateful to our engineers, the most underrated discipline there is. Without them, there will be no roads, no bridges, no electricity, no clean water, no skyscrapers, no NASA. So it's lawyers, engineers, and money. And for this project, we have all three. Our waterfront has been eroding. The project is not only for Southport, but for our state and our country. So I call on City Engineer Bob Jarvis to lead the discussion on the contract. So welcome, Mr. Jarvis.
Thank you very much for those kind words. We have a couple of related items here, and I know that you do have a very long agenda, so I will do my best to make them quick. And again, good evening. With me tonight is Jeremy Packard. Jeremy's a project manager with our consultant who's been working with us on this project, Foth Engineering. He's here to help me answer questions that you may have on the next two items. As you're well aware, the Southport waterfront continues to experience erosion with storm-generated waves, commercial vessel traffic, and rising water levels. The city's been working on a long-term solution for several years, as the mayor indicated, in coordination with Foth Olson Associates, our engineering consultant. During that process, surveys, design work were completed, and easements were obtained from affected property owners, and all required permits have been secured. The project has been discussed with the board on numerous occasions, and workshops were conducted to gather community input. The resulting design uses several shoreline stabilization techniques, including offshore breakwaters, beach nourishment, dune restoration, native plantings, and rock revetment. The construction of the project was recently bid. We had 4 competitive bids ranging from the low bid of approximately $3.3 million to the high bid of approximately $4.3 million. Civil Works Contracting of Wilmington submitted the lowest responsive bid in the amount of $3,294,674.47. There were 2 other bids that were within 4% of the low bid. Staff and our consultant reviewed the contractor's qualifications, references, and experience and determined that Civil Works is capable of successfully completing the project. We also had a pre-award meeting with the contractor to confirm their understanding of the project scope, schedule, permit requirements, and construction constraints. If the board approves, staff will issue a notice of award to the low bidder and proceed with the contract execution, bonding, and insurance requirements. Construction activities will not begin immediately. The notice to proceed with the project is expected to occur in phases over the coming months. The initial phase will allow the contractor to complete his various submittals and begin procuring and stockpiling materials off-site. The construction phase is expected to begin on or about October 1st, 2026, and this is in accordance with the environmental permit restrictions. 100% of the funding for the project is being provided through a $5 million grant, as the mayor implied, from the State Emergency Response and Disaster Relief Fund. Those funds must be obligated by June 30th, 2026. To that end, staff recommends award of the construction contract to Civil Works Contracting, LLC, in the amount of $3,294,674.47. And if you have any questions on that portion of our discussion, I'll be happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mr. Jarvis?
Okay. Thank you. I was just curious if you had any understanding of the difference, because 4.3 and 3.3 are way different. What that might have been the difference. You're comfortable with that?
I'll ask Jeremy to speak in just a second, but we had 4 bids. The 3 lowest were 3.29 million, 3.31 million, and 3.44 million.
Okay.
So those bids were extremely close. The difference between those 3 bids was 4%, and the difference between the lowest 2 was 0.4%, was $15,000. And if I may elaborate just a little bit more, our consulting engineer will put together an engineer's estimate of the project cost before advertising for construction bids. Their estimate was $3.3 million. So we had 4 entities that were right in the ballpark. The 4th one, as an outlier, generally in the business, that firm has a lot of work to do. They threw a bid at it. If they got it, they're going to make some good money on it. So we're confident that that the bid is a qualified bid.
I know that there's a lot of sand and rock involved. Has the contractor looked to know what and where materials and equipment staging areas are going to be, and how that construction, how we can focus on mitigating the impacts for businesses and residents at the waterfront?
Jeremy, you want to come up and speak? We did define specific areas where the contractor was allowed to stage, and he'll be responsible for.
Yeah, thank you. So Jeremy Packer with Fourth Infrastructure. Oliver's, the restaurant there, we're going to use that parking lot, and they'll be able to use that for a small staging area. And then we also have the area next to the Harbor Walk, or next to the shorefront, the walkway along the park there. So they can use the first 20 feet of that for staging and access. Everything else would be staged off-site. And we talked to this contractor about this in a pre-award meeting and asked them what their plan was for that. It sounds like they have a laydown area already established about 10 minutes away from the project site.
Oh, okay.
So we're not allowing them to bring in any stockpile materials. Only a day's worth of placement of materials is allowed at the site at any given time. Everything else will be staged off-site and delivered.
That sounds great. In the past, when we've done projects with large stones, the roads and curbing can be damaged in the process. So I don't know if the contract includes resurfacing and restoring areas.
Yeah, it is very specific as to protection of existing facilities to remain. And we did bring up the pavement, especially at that pre-award meeting, and asked them, are you going to use mats or rubber track tires? How are you planning to protect this? And they said they may consider using mats, and they were going to be very, very careful. And we said, okay, that sounds great, but if you're not, then you'll resurface it.
That doesn't answer the question, though. Will they repair and replace if, in fact, the worst happens?
Yes.
They are obligated, or they will not be paid.
Correct.
Excuse me, that's very clear in the contract.
Absolutely.
Just a quick question for those who haven't been following this project. It is a federal grant, is it not?
I believe it is. I believe it's a state grant.
State grant.
State Emergency Response and Disaster Relief Fund.
And it certainly was a grant that I think we all support up here, and is needed. There is no match required by the city of Southport. So this is a state grant completely paid with non-Southport taxpayer money. It's a grant that's greatly needed, our shoreline. And thank you, Bob, for working on this project for several years now.
Thank you, sir.
I have some additional questions. In the Civil Works Contracting LLC bid, it says in a couple different places, inspection and vibration monitoring. How long does the vibration monitoring monitoring go for? Is that something that they do once and then it's done, or
No,
they?
it's continuous.
Okay,
And there's performance standards for thresholds, and it's monitored continuously. And there are alerts sent if there are any exceedance. We get weekly reports that we review ourselves, but and then also if there are occurrences of exceedance of those thresholds, that we get immediate notices, stop work. We all figure out kind of what's going on.
and then once the work is done, the vibration monitoring stops? How does that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay.
And so there's a pre-construction survey that happens, lots of photos from every different angle, and cracks are measured, everything else. Then we monitor the vibrations during construction. And then there's a post-construction inspection to make sure that there was no damage, facilities damage that the contractor is obligated to repair. And once everybody's good there, then we issue the as-built.
Is there something built in that at the 6 month or the 1 year mark, it's inspected again, and that the contractor would then come back and repair at that point if there's damage during that first year?
There is a warranty period, a 1-year warranty period.
Okay, so do we have something set up so that it would be inspected during that warranty period, or do we need to go add that to say, okay, at the 9 month mark, we need to go in, or 10 month mark to go look at that?
There are monitoring requirements as part of the environmental permits that we have for the project. And so that while that work isn't contracted for and scoped yet, we do anticipate that there will be some observation that Foth is performing on behalf of the city of Southport post-construction.
Okay, and that the price for that is already built in here somewhere?
Oh, it's not?
No, the monitoring is not built in right
Oh,
now.
I'm sorry, apologies.
It's right now, the item that we're talking about is just the construction budget for the contractor.
Okay, so I won't let that hold up what we need to have earmarked before the end of the month. But I would love to know what those numbers look like also, and I would hate for that to be the difference between the percentage of the awarded contract and one of the contracts that was not awarded. Just something to consider. And then there are two options for, or option 1 for segment 1 revetment and option 2 for segment 3 revetment. The prices are significantly different. Those are the different sections of revetment. They're not
Yes.
actually different options. They're just different sections.
Different
Right.
sections.
So the way that it just has option 1 and option 2, that's
Right.
just.
The bid was originally broken up into a base bid, which was the area down near South Caswell,
Okay,
and 2 alternate bids, 2 options, A and B. In the event that the bid prices came in
higher.
and those prices exceeded the amount that we had the choice of selecting 1 or 2 of the options. And since the bid prices did come in favorably, we selected both of the options.
Perfect. Thank you for that. And then it shows that April 1st, 2027 is the expected completion date in this as well. Is there something built in somewhere where if they go beyond that, we have some sort of compensation, or?
We do have liquidated damages as part of this contract, and
Okay.
the contractor is aware of those liquidated damages, $500 a day for every day after the contract end date.
Okay, because certainly by the time we get to April 2027, that parking in that area is a premium, and we would love to
Absolutely.
have that back.
Yes.
I think that's all of my questions on that. Thank you very much.
Do you know roughly how much of the parking spaces there we're gonna lose? For the jury,
We would expect the entire parking lot, with the exception of the spaces immediately adjacent to the building, to be used for staging of the materials that are going to be used for the revetment. So check me if I'm wrong
No,
here,
you're right, yeah,
Jeremy, but it's not going to be used throughout the duration of the project. It will be a finite duration. Once they complete the revetment in that area, they won't require that access to that.
and y'all are starting in, I believe, the fall, did you say? What, September or October?
That's correct. We
Okay.
still have yet to determine how the contractor is going to phase that, which sections he's going to work on first and second, and that will come up, I assume, when he submits his work plans.
Yes.
And then from that, I actually had another question. You mentioned that only 1 day of rock would be positioned at the parking lot. That seems like not very much for the traffic that would be, like the heavy equipment going back and forth in the road to move that. Is one day the optimum to do that? Is it a week's worth, or is it like bringing rock in every day the best way to move that forward?
Bringing rock in every day is the best way to reduce your footprint for your stockpile materials. And I think in working, we will be working with the contractor during construction. And so we can kind of dial what the best amount of material to have in, the most efficient amount at any given time is. And, you know, maybe if it's 2 days or a week's worth, then we can dial that in a little bit. Right now, we wanted to give the contractor kind of the worst case scenario.
Got it.
Assume you can only have 1 day at a time.
Thank you. I appreciate that, because certainly the least amount of impact on our roads and our people every day. We already have noise ordinance in place for early morning things, and certainly moving rock in would probably be loud enough that that would be a concern for people. So perhaps more than a day at a time would be a good idea in this case.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Your laydown yard, is that the Willis Marine or the River Pilots land here on the water by any chance?
I don't think it's coastal. I think it's inland, and it's the contractor's private yard where they haven't told us yet where it is. They will as part of their work plan, but they just mentioned that they have a yard 10 minutes away.
And this contractor is out of Wilmington, correct?
Yes.
So it's a local contractor.
I saw their truck today, actually, in downtown.
It seems like we're gonna have to put up with a good bit of inconvenience and things we don't like in order to get something that's really good. So
Unfortunately, yes, you're
Nature of
correct.
construction.
I don't know if y'all have noticed, but there's a huge rock project that was done by the city on West Bay Street, and did a wonderful job, and it wasn't that disruptive, and I'm sure they'll be cognizant of that for our city, and I'm very confident of that. Any further questions?
And since you mentioned that, Mayor, that was supposed to be removed as part of this, right?
That's correct.
Yeah. Should I make a motion? Are we there? Does anybody have any
Is he through
conversation?
with his presentation?
Yeah. Is there anything else you need?
Anything else?
From
Is there any
us?
other presentation?
I have one more,
Okay.
two separate entities. I'm sorry, I was.
Okay.
The first one is we're asking for the board's approval to award the contract. My next item, I will discuss the consulting engineers, construction administration and inspection proposal.
So I'll make the first motion. Motion to authorize the awarding of a contract between the city and Civil Works Contracting LLC for the work defined in the contract documents for Southport shorefront improvements, and to authorize the city manager to execute any necessary contract documents.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Marcel and a second by Alderman Kelly. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Okay. Following the award of the construction contract, much appreciated. The next step is to provide engineering and construction administration services during construction. Foth Olson Associates, the city's design consultant, has submitted task order 7 for those services. Their responsibilities during construction and in the months leading up to construction will include full-time construction observation and administration, review of contractor submittals, requests for information and payment applications, attendance at progress meetings, project documentation, quality assurance, and project closeout. These services are intended to provide day-to-day oversight of the contractor's work and to help ensure that the project is constructed in accordance with the plans, specifications, permits, and other contract requirements. Consultant services will begin this summer with the review of the required contract submittals and material procurement activities. Material sourcing and off-site stockpiling are expected to occur prior to the start of construction, as I mentioned. On-site construction activities, along with the necessary consultant support, are anticipated again to begin this fall as a condition of the project's environmental permits. Staff recommends approval of task order 7 with Foth Olson Associates for construction engineering and administration services associated with the shoreline stabilization project. And if I may add one item, What we will do as the project draws to an end, we will secure FOSS services for additional monitoring in the months after construction. So that would be a part of their contract and not the construction
Thank you.
contract.
I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thank you. I'll entertain a motion.
Quick question. By the time it's all said and done, Bob, are we still within budget?
Yes.
Thank you.
I'd like to make a motion to authorize the approval of Foth Olson Associates Task 07 to provide construction phase services for the shoreline protection project.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Mosteller, second by Alderman Kelly. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Excellent. Motion carried unanimously. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your patience.
Thank you.
Item I2 is the public hearing, zoning text amendment standards for mobile food vendors or food trucks. And this is reviewed by the planning board with their recommendation. So as you know, a duly advertised public hearing is required for a text amendment to the UDO. So I declare this public hearing open and I call on Planning Service Director Maureen Meehan.
Thank you, Mayor, and good evening, Board of Aldermen. This evening, we are going to be looking at a couple of different public hearings, but this first one is an amendment to the section 3.8Y of the UDO and the standards for mobile vendors or food trucks. This amendment has been initiated due to some confusion with the existing process by vendors and property owners themselves. So staff has been working with those vendors. May I please? Thank you, ma'am. Okay, so just to give you an idea, so the definition of a mobile vendor is a readily movable trailer or motorized wheeled vehicle currently registered with the North Carolina Division of Motor Vehicles, designed and equipped to serve food and/or sell merchandise. And the definition of a food truck is a motorized or trailered vehicle with power on board, refrigeration, food preparation facilities, and usually room for 2 to 4 employees. Food trucks shall be considered a mobile vendor for purposes of this ordinance. So currently, we are not going to be changing any of these definitions. I just wanted to put them out there because we're going to be removing food truck from, and it's just going to be mobile vendor as one that encompasses all of the vendors themselves. So currently mobile vendors and food trucks are non-residential land uses. So that requires the property owner to come to zoning and get the zoning permit to host vendors. Then the vendor must come to us and get an itinerant merchant permit so that they can operate within the city. So it's a 2-step process. There became a lot of frustration by all parties, staff, the vendors, and we would communicate to the property owners, please, when you're hiring food trucks, make sure they come to City Hall and get their itinerant merchants. But of course, things fell through the cracks. And then we also found out that there were fire inspections that were being missed as well. So there were a lot of things happening. So again, we're proposing this amendment not to change the definition, but we want to change mobile vendor from a non-residential land use to an accessory land use to the non-residential property. So the food truck or vendor will apply and obtain a zoning permit, and they will allow them to operate within the city for a year. And they must submit the same information that's required now that the property owners must also submit for them. And then they would be uploading an agreement or a contract from the property owner, where they will be operating. There is an exception that we have put in here. If you're only going to be operating at city hosted events, you do not have to have a site plan or consent necessary. You just need to make sure that you come in and have your valid license and registration, any state or county permits for food service, and ensure you get your fire inspection. So this new permit will expedite the process. It'll be a lot cleaner. And we were going to ensure that fire inspections are included in the workflow. So when the vendor comes to and applies for the permit itself, that will be part of the process prior to issuance of the permit. So that is a overview of the amendment. I'm happy to answer any questions. And the planning board did hear this in April at their meeting and found it consistent with the UDO and the comprehensive plan, and do recommend approval of this change of amendment to the ordinance.
I have questions.
Yes, ma'am.
First, this is only on non-residential, in non-residential zoning, correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, and this is a year-long permit.
Yes, ma'am.
So a vendor can set up and be there for a year.
No, they cannot. I mean, as the ordinance, the ordinance written says that it can only be in, they have to come and leave. They cannot stay on a property indefinitely, and they can only operate for 120 days for the 12 months.
Okay, can you describe for me what we're looking at? I mean, a vendor comes on what property?
Any property that non-residential property that hires them to serve for their patrons on site. So it has to be 50 feet from an established restaurant front door. But otherwise, any non-residential property owner can invite a food truck to come to their property.
Like the tap seller has the lobster guy come, or the different ones, trucks come there, as an example. As I'm sure other,
Yes.
the brewery maybe and
Yes.
different things.
So that, yes, so most of the time, if it's a tap and cellar, I know that there are some other establishments that do it. And for special occasions, I know that there have been some other establishments that aren't a brewery or, a winery that they've invited the food vendors for special events that they're having as well.
Is there any opportunity for other restaurants or businesses in the immediate area to object to the permit?
Any permit can be, can come, anyone can come and appeal a permit that has been issued. We have not had any issues with any of the established restaurants or any other businesses with any of the food trucks that have been operating currently.
Well, you had me at lobster rolls.
Any other questions for Ms. McGann?
I do. A signed letter of consent between the property owner and business operator or mobile vendor operator. Does it have to be a formalized letter? Can they show you a text message that they accepted? Because I have been in situations where I texted a food vendor because I was like, hey, can you guys come down? Yes, sure. I mean, and that was the extent of the contract.
Yes, I think that would be appropriate, especially since you can upload photos to the permit portal from your phone. So if it is a last moment thing, that at least that way we can track where these trucks are operating.
And if someone at a private residence wants to have a food truck in front of their home for a birthday party or special event, this does not prevent them from doing that. It does not require anything of them for that.
Correct.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Alderman Davis, you can have a food truck now. All right, any other questions? All right, Madam Clerk, who would like to speak in public comment concerning this issue of food trucks, or I should say mobile
I don't have anybody.
food
Is there
vendors?
anybody out there?
Anyone here to speak on mobile food vendors? Okay, I therefore will entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
No move.
Second.
Okay, all in favor? Okay, motion carried. Thank you. All right, I'll entertain a motion. Board?
I'll make a motion to approve the zoning text amendment to table 3.1, table of uses, and section 3.6, accessory use standards of the UDO, and adopt the attached consistency statement.
I have a motion and a second to approve the zoning text amendment, and also that it is consistent with the City of Southport 2050 Comprehensive Plan. Any further discussion? All in favor? Any opposed? Motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Item I3 is the zoning text amendment. And this is for the bed and breakfast. And this was referred to the Board of Aldermen by the Planning Board. And this is their request to host larger events. So I declare this public hearing open, and I call on Planning Service Director Maureen Meehan to lead the discussion.
Mr. Mayor, if I may, I just want to remind the board that I brought this up and attempted to recuse myself before when we talked about bed and breakfast. I just wanted to bring that up again, that I do in fact own a small inn in town. It is not a bed and breakfast. We do not provide any food services at the property, but I did want to remind the board of that.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, sir. This is a UDO text amendment to section 3.8C, bed and breakfast. Thank you. So existing bed and breakfast use standards, bed and breakfasts are permitted by a special use permit with standards in all zoning districts except the open space. And the current language does not permit or prohibit events as it is written. It's a very vague gray area. In the past, establishments that had hosted events had those events outlined in their management plans that were approved at the special use permit process. Currently, the standards include that the inn must meet state sanitation rules. They should include a management plan, and a management plan is essentially a business plan and how you're going to run your operation. And then there must be an on-site manager that resides on premises. So those are existing standards. There was a bed and breakfast that came forward for a special use permit, and as part of that request, wanted to host large events on site. And that prompted the Board of Aldermen to ask that staff do some research to look at events at bed and breakfast. Is it appropriate? If it is appropriate, what is appropriate? So we have worked on this language multiple times, and there have been several versions. And this version has been considered by the Planning Board. They formed a committee to work with staff and then brought it to the full Planning Board for discussion. So the new proposed language updates the definition of a bed and breakfast to include that services may include hosting low impact gatherings or events, defines event, which is only the definition for the UDO. It's not for any other areas within the city or ordinances of the city. It defines what a low impact gathering is. And then it further updates the standards for bed and breakfasts, specifically section 3.8C2, which is the section on the management plan. So it requires the management plan now rather than suggesting that they should have one. It outlines the requirement elements to include in your management plan if you would like to propose events at your site. Those standards that in the residential zoning districts where a bed and breakfast exists, you may only have indoor events, and it cannot exceed the fire marshal's occupancy numbers that are allowed. The next one, it only allows 2 events per month, regardless of the zoning district where you are. You must notice your abutting neighbors prior to having any event that you're having, and it limits the hours that the events are allowed on site. That is the big broad, and I'm happy to ask. I know we've got a lot on the agenda, so I just wanted to outline what it is, and we've seen this a lot, but I'm happy to answer questions. The Planning Board has looked at this, proposed the amendments, and finds that they're consistent with the UDO and the comprehensive plan, and recommends approval of this amendment.
I have questions. I was part of the discussion urging that the language go back to the Planning Board to look at. I obviously was not clear enough to look for language that specifically prohibits large gatherings, parties, weddings, and so forth. And since we got the agenda and I read through this so carefully, I looked at the requirements in some of our neighboring towns that have very popular B&Bs. Wilmington, Beaufort come to mind. And both of them have specific language that prohibit events, weddings, gatherings, and parties, period. Inside, outside, regardless. They're very cognizant that they are in residential areas, and so they don't allow them. What we have here is language that seeks to create rules to allow events. And I'm very much opposed to that. The other language that I found that was universal was the number of bedrooms and the number of occupants. Now, Beaufort, I mean, look at this one. Yeah, Beaufort puts it at 23 persons and 12 guest rooms. They got some pretty big B&B houses there. Others are 6, 4, that sort of thing, rooms. I think that we could do that we could establish the maximum occupancy that way. One of my many problems with allowing events is, first, it puts the onus of enforcement on our police department, on our code enforcement. We don't need to burden them with more duties and more things to do in the evenings, especially. We also, we just do not need to have a business operating in a residential area. B&Bs have been long established, over 100 years of traditional B&Bs that exist as a play, as accommodations, you know, bed, breakfast. The word event doesn't come in there. You check in, you sleep, you eat, you leave. There are also definitions in some of the B&B regulations about the fact that no food can be served to the public, for the public to pay for, that food service, whether it's breakfast, lunch, dinner, some of them allow all 3 meals, but this is paid for as part of the accommodations. And so having the public come in and have food, worship, have it catered, this goes against what a residential use is. So I would like to see us give this back to the planning board again. So sorry, but look at some of this other language, and let's also look at what the other B&Bs are here, what their room occupancy is, and so on. We don't want to make them illegal retroactively in any way, but let's establish those kind of limits and make it very clear that we're not allowing events, a whole business operation as part of a B&B.
I tend to agree with a lot of those comments. It scares me to have an event at a B&B. And I guess one of our newest B&Bs is the one across from the tennis courts on East Moore. I don't know what the maximum occupancy of that particular facility would be. Do you happen to know, Mo?
I don't know off the top of
But
my
you
head. I
know,
apologize.
if it was 50 or 60, I'd be concerned about having an event that large in that location right next to a church and next to residential areas. So I think I kind of agree with Love. I like to see it sent back to the planning board, see if we can come up with some more reasonable occupancy limits. But you know, if this passes and there's and the occupancy limits of that new B&B across from the tennis court is 60. Well, we've got competition for our weddings across the street at the community center. We're going to have traffic issues. We're going to have noise issues in a residential zoned area right next to a church. And I'm not with this one right now.
I mean, the occupant, this current language that we're looking at talks about occupancy, but that's fire marshal occupancy. And, you know, we're looking at a budget where we don't want to see as much overtime as we see. So we would be having to have the fire marshal come out and make sure that there are only 50 or 60 people under the roof. Again, we don't need events at B&Bs.
I think the fire marshal guidelines are ones that I actually asked for. They allow us to put guardrails on in a way that takes it off of a business owner who says, "Oh, I have two people can sleep in each of my 6 bedrooms, so that's 12 people here." That doesn't take into account the other spaces. I think the fire marshal going in is not something where the fire marshal would necessarily go out and check during each event. It does put the guardrails on the owner of the B&B to be able to do that. I know that for my inn, the fire marshal comes out and does inspections through each room already. That is part of the inspection process that I pay for yearly to have done. In addition to checking smoke detectors and carbon monoxide detectors, it's also looking for other fire hazards that could be found within the space. So I think the fire marshal is already going out to these B&Bs. It's not creating an additional step for the fire marshal. It's part of their process already. I think it just, if even in a building such as this, I think there's a placard that says the maximum occupancy inside the building. And I think that translates into what the B&Bs are doing. And the guardrails are in place in this. And I think that the planning board did a really nice job with a 9 a.m. to 9 p.m., which actually shortens the hours from our noise ordinance. So if 9 p.m. is the end of the event, figure if it takes an hour for everybody to get back to their car and back home, they're out before that 10 p.m. Noise. And then not 2 events in less than 30 days. I've got people who live 3 houses down who have a party every Friday and Saturday night, and the music is on very loud. And it's not a B&B, it's somebody's house. So I think that we might be looking for a problem where a problem doesn't exist. And then outside of that, Mo, the only question I did have was notified within 45 days of an event. I just was concerned that there aren't further guardrails on that, where it's, okay, we're going to send it within 45 days could mean, oh, the event's tomorrow. Just wanted to let you know it's happening tomorrow. And that does occasionally happen with something last minute. I understand that, but I think that would be my feedback for that is just.
You want to go, Mark? You've been raising your hand. Boy here.
Yeah,
I'm
go
not
ahead.
sure quite where you were going with this, but
So in terms of, I'm sending Levi away to college. I got my downstairs and we'll turn it into 2 apartments. What's the difference in a homestay and a B&B? Is that the food?
that's defined in our ordinance about short-term stays. Short-term rentals. We define homestays. We defined what else?
What is the difference then? What is the difference here? I don't.
Well, you have to get licensed to be a B&B, and to the health department comes where health department doesn't come to a short-term rental or that. And we do not allow events at short-term rentals. We don't allow events specifically. We have language that says no events at short-term rentals, no events at homestays. And do you have more? Okay. So this is, and I hear what you're saying, Rebecca, but Alderman Kelly, sorry. And but the North Carolina state statute defines bed and breakfast home as a business in a private home of not more than 8 guest rooms that offers bed and breakfast accommodations for a period of less than 1 week, and that it meets the following criteria. And this is low reference this. It does not serve food or drink to the general public for pay. And B serves the breakfast meal, the lunch meal, the dinner meal, or any combination of all or some of these 3 meals only to overnight guests of the home. So that's what state law says. Our UDO says bed and breakfast as defines it as a house or portion thereof where short-term lodging rooms and meals are provided. And we've not even ever mentioned our code of ordinances. I went through the code of ordinances, and the bed and breakfast, the code of ordinances, it defines bed and breakfast as a private home offering bed and breakfast accommodations to 8 or less persons per night for a period of less than a week. And it goes on to say the term is intended to describe the offering of temporary lodging in a private home having architectural and historic interest rather than the provision of food service or offerings of facilities for long-term occupancy, such as boarding houses, inns, and similar things. So all of this for me is to say that a bed and breakfast is supposed to provide convenient lodging. It's not supposed to be an events venue. And because already in our small town, because of the proximity of our businesses to our residential, we already have enough pressure and impact on our in-town residentially zoned areas. So quite honestly, I'm not in favor of creating an ordinance that allows another type of business, which an events business is another type of business use within our residential neighborhoods.
And as for, to answer Alderman Spencer's question, if you created 2 apartments, I'm sorry? Okay, then you're creating a 2-family home. And so that would be, you'd have to go in another direction to change zoning. But if you had it as a homestay is rooms in your house that you rent out the rooms, and you share kitchen, you share facilities, and it can be, for a long time. It's almost like a rooming. No, I guess not a rooming house, but other people stay in your house and pay you to stay in your house. The rowdy parties, I guess all of us have experienced those at one time, but those are in a private home. Private people are having a private party and it gets loud. That's a noise ordinance issue, which we still have in front of us to start revising. So the issue is, do we give it back to the planning board to come up with very specific language? Are we happy with what we have and just adding no events as a phrase as part of the definition and regulations? I think we're to give it back to the planning board to look at further language that strengthens and clarifies B&Bs and prohibits events.
Is that a motion?
No, well.
That's a motion.
Well, not quite. I
We're still in.
This is a public hearing. So is there, Madam Clerk, anyone from the public that wanted to speak concerning this?
Yes, I have John Mann.
Welcome, sir.
Mike's on? Okay, good. All right, good. John Mann at 209 East Moore Street, own the Carriage House Bed and Breakfast. Here also representing the Robert Rourke, Captain Newton, and they couldn't be here today. So while we truly appreciate the adjustments that were made from the last iteration, appreciate the intent behind the amendment and really strongly to preserve the neighborhood character of where the bed and breakfasts reside. However, there's a couple points in the agenda or the change that I would like to bring up about the important principles of fairness along with reasonable standards and like even possibly downzoning. First, while I understand basically managing outdoor activities should not be completely eliminated, it states that the B&Bs can only do interior events. A lot of our outdoor events, even like doing the stuff after hours, the Brunswick County thing, forgot what it's called. Everybody remembers what it's called, where they just go and they meet and they bring business after hours and doing something like that. That would not be allowed. There's lots of things that we do that don't have music, don't have amplified sound, don't have anything like that, just being now eliminated. No disrespect, but I did completely disagree with Alderman Davis. This is to saying that you just can't do anything outside your house is kind of overly broad and not reasonably tailored to the actual impacts that you're trying to address. Regulation should mitigate impact and not eliminate reasonable kind of historical permitted uses. Indoor events also should not be limited in frequency. Indoor, again, indoor. Totally agree with the outdoor limitations. This should be removed. We actually had several times where people come and just do a book club for an hour. Not allowed. I mean, I went through this last time. There's so many things that a birthday party, somebody used my parlor for a birthday party for 8 people would not be allowed. And I can go on and on of the small events that support the community that, you know, the bed and breakfasts do support that would now not be allowed because you're only allowed to have 2 indoor events over every month. That just makes absolutely no sense when you're not bothering your neighbors or anything. There's actually no minimal or no impact or disruption on surrounding neighbors. Placing a cap on indoor events that produces no disruption does not align with stated goals for the neighborhood protection and appears to be arbitrary, not reasonable, or tied to any impact. Third, the definition of low impact gatherings about amplified sound completely eliminates the opportunity of amplified sound. Not that I want, you know, amplified sound from a band, but that also eliminates a microphone for anybody actually just doing a speech. That's amplified sound, or just having, you know, a small speaker on your back patio. Totally agree if you don't want, you know, live music and that's eliminated because it's a residential, I get that. But to eliminate it completely just doesn't seem to make sense while they're removing. Lastly, I want to also point out that these restrictions only apply to one business type. Similar situation properties in the same zoning district are not treated consistently, and there are other businesses in the same immediate area that regulate host gatherings and events without these same restrictions. While I understand zoning categories may differ, with real-world impacts on occupancy and activities are similar, this raises concerns about consistency whether these rules are being applied in a fair, balanced way based upon the impact rather than the property type. Finally, I want to emphasize again, we're not asking to unlimited events or become a venue for events. It's a bed and breakfast that's just supporting, you know, the community for small things like that with our space that's available. I'm only asking for balanced practical standards with legal fairness included. Just no limit to the indoor gatherings, you know, a reasonable allowance for outdoor events, 2 a month, 3 a month, something like that. No outdoor live music. I love the restrictions where it's only 9 to 9, completely okay with all those things. I have no problem with notifying my neighbors. I'm going to put them on an email list and make sure I send an email out saying, hey, in October, this weekend, this is going to happen and it's only for 3 hours. So just let you know, I have no problem with doing that for my budding neighbors. I actually talked to Paul and Jesse and tell them things already. So that's something we're already doing. And just use the same noise ordinances that every other business and residents have to abide by. I don't think you need a different noise ordinance just for one specific property when everybody else has to follow the noise ordinances that are in the UDO already. Remembering we're only trying to fill a need that exists in our community to support Southport, and we're not trying to compete against the community center. I've been open for 1.5 years. I've had 1 wedding besides my son's. And it was an older couple that was 68 years old and was only like 25 people there, and that was it. So we're not doing these type of weddings and doing these big parties that everybody keeps throwing out, and we're just trying to solve a problem that really isn't existing. I don't think there's any complaints that have happened since we've opened in any of the bed and breakfasts because I've actually checked through. So that was just my point of views to present to the board, and hopefully you take those into consideration. And I really appreciate your time and you're conducting your discussions.
Thank you. I think that was a very good discussion on his part, and I think the board the motion, I believe, was do you have a motion now after hearing him? And is there anyone else that wants to speak first? Okay, that's it.
Nobody.
So I will.
And then I'll make a motion.
Yes. All right, I certainly will. Motion to close the public hearing. All in favor? Okay. Motion carried. Thank you. All right.
I'd like to just comment. This gentleman made some very good points. Lo made some very good points. I don't know if we could have a motion where this gentleman meets with our planning board and come up with maybe he's already done it. Let's come up with something reasonable. Have we already done that?
Yeah.
We have,
Why don't we let Alderman Davis make her motion?
okay.
My motion is that we return this issue to the planning board yet again with instructions to look very closely at all of the restrictions and the permissions for a B&B coinciding with what is state law, what is our existing ordinance, and with an intention of finding a way to eliminate large gatherings and events, or any gatherings and events, as in the state law, which simply says that B&Bs are for accommodations. In other words, my motion is that we give it back to you to come up with language that prevents events and parties and weddings, that limits what a B&B can do, that sets what the maximum occupancy can be related to the number of rooms. You can even set the number of rooms. We don't have that many B&Bs, but I don't mean to comment while I'm making my motion. Anyway, simplify. Send this back to the planning board, seeking language that tightens up our definitions of bed and breakfast and eliminates allowing events, parties, etc.
Okay, we
If
have a
I would,
motion. Yes.
Mr. Mayor, I would interject. I think if it's the intent of the board not to have events at bed and breakfast, then you should deny this request. If there's no current allowance for events and bed and breakfasts, so to send it back to planning board to come back to deny it.
Well, part of the problem, why I think it has to go back to the planning board for the language. The reason is that the reason this is here to begin with is there is no language in the bed and breakfast zoning that makes it clear about events. When the management plan went to the Board of Adjustment for that particular bed and breakfast, they wanted to do 150 people in their management plan, events and weddings and that sort of thing. So what the Board of Adjustment did was they said, well, there's no zoning for that, and we're not here to write zoning. So that's where this came from, and that's how it got sent. So we need something in the ordinance that clarifies it. So because it just needs to have something in the ordinance that clarifies regarding events.
And that would be to prevent any type of events at bed and breakfast. Is that correct?
But I think that our ordinance needs a little further work too, to establish room numbers, how many rooms, how many occupants, and try to coincide, pick up the exact language of the state law. It has language in about number of rooms and stuff. What I would say is that we certainly understand if they're having events for their guests. This is not about events for their guests. This is about doing events for people who are not staying there, it becomes an events venue. And the fact that we have a few bed and breakfasts today may not prohibit us having 10 in 5 years. So I just think that, so I tend to agree with Alderman Davis to send it back to the planning board. I understand what you say, manager, but
If someone is a guest, can they be allowed to have an event? That's the clarification you want. So one of you saying no events and one of you saying have events for guests.
Well, I think that anything with the number of guests that they're doing something for their guests, but like having dinner outside or something, and they're the lodgers that are staying there. I think that if that needs to be clear, I don't know. I mean, I would make that assumption, but not for outside.
And that's why it needs to go back to the planning board to come up with this kind of language. And to imagine different scenarios like, okay, we have a couple of guests who know people here who want to invite them over and have wine and cheese on the porch with them, whatever. But the actual organized events, that's not appropriate in a bed and breakfast. But again, This is the job of the planning board right now.
Well, I
So
think-
my motion is to, now that we've had the public hearing, is to vote to send the language back to the planning board for further work and to tighten up the language and come up with things, come up with something that this board will accept.
We have a motion. Do we have a second? Second by Alderman Marcel. Alderman Kelly, you had
I'd
comments?
love to have discussion further on this. So, let's say, for example, I am staying at one of the local bed and breakfasts and it sleeps 12 people. And I am there by myself because I'm getting married tomorrow and my future husband is not staying at the bed and breakfast. Can we then have a small wedding at the property for 12 people if the rest of the guests are not attending? They just happen to be out in town that day. So it's still 12 people, but it's not necessarily the guests of the hotel. Another thing would be a book club. A book club has very small impact on the community. It is usually during the day. It is not necessarily inside. If it's a beautiful day and they want to bring their beach chairs and sit outside, more power to them. But there's no amplified sound. That is already in this ordinance that there would be no amplified sound. I hear you about live music. I think that we could potentially look at changing that. But I think at this point, we've got businesses that abut residential all through town that have the noise ordinance that they get special permits for that go later than the traditional noise ordinance, and it affects the neighbors. In 11 o'clock at night, the music stops, and then there are people leaving those establishments later than that. I think 9 p.m. is really not impactful on the neighbors if there's no amplified sound. I don't want this to look like a taking of the ability for people who that they bought it without these guidelines in place and they were able to do this, and now we're going to prevent them from being able to do so.
The things that you're suggesting are not in the language that we have in front of us, which is why I want to send it back to the planning board and get very.
Alderman Davis, there are in the language, it says all on-site events are scheduled to occur between the hours of 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. Bed and breakfast in residentially zoned districts shall limit all on-site events to interior gatherings, which I actually disagree with. I think they should be allowed to have exterior gatherings as well. And then on-site events shall not exceed 2 occasions in 30 days. That's only 2 a month. I would love for my neighbors a few houses down to only have 2 parties a month and for them to let me know which nights they're going to be, so that way I can plan to go do something else those nights. I just think that we need to be fair, and with the communication with the neighbors already happening, I think that's a wonderful thing that's happening, that they're kind of becoming part of the fabric of the neighborhood and not being a thorn in the side. I know certainly some of the neighbors are very vocal, and the fact that they weren't here for the public hearing tells us that they're okay with what the planning board has gone through over and over again at this point.
Yes, we do have a motion and a second, and go ahead, more discussion.
Yeah, because I do. I'm struggling a little bit with this because some of this is business, right? Some of this is business in a residential neighborhood, and you bought a home or you bought a B&B, and it didn't tell you you could run a business outside of a B&B. So I'm struggling a little bit with that. I can see, to Rebecca's point, why some of these functions would make sense. But the reality is, if we ended up putting 180 people in the backyard of the subject property, some people aren't going to be happy. And I'm pretty certain we're going to call for Mr. Paul, is my guess. So, there's a fine line between allowing businesses to conduct business in a residential neighborhood. So I'm struggling, and I don't know if sending it back. I just don't know, but
I think we demonstrated that we are not the ones to try to come up with this language. That's why we have a planning board. They are the experts at this. So let's let them.
Well, Alderman Davis, I'm confused by what you're asking then. Are you asking for no events at all? Are you asking for only inside events? Are you asking for a limit to the number of exterior events?
I think that we could perhaps get a definition of it. But yes, if it comes down to it, I'm asking for no events, no gatherings that involve people beyond the people staying in the B&B. They can certainly have guests over to visit, but it's a place to stay. It's an accommodation. It is not a party venue. And so that's what I'm asking the planning board to consider. Yeah, I think the planning board is perfectly capable of coming back with some optional language for us, several different things to consider. But the motion on the floor is sending it back to the planning board to revise and consider this language and make suggestions to us.
Now, if that's the motion, then that's good. Your earlier motion said, and make sure there are no events. So I think we,
That's what I'm hoping they will come back.
well, okay, but I think to Alderman Kelly, we'll send it back, but let them look at what events would be like a book club or whatever, in that regard. Just send it back to them and one more time, or either, I mean, that's the
Mr. Mayor,
motion we have.
Can't,
So
Keep
we
in
should
mind
vote.
what code enforcement's going to be forced to do. You got to come over and make sure everybody's reading the book.
I think
All
if the neighbors complain, just like anything else, then someone goes out to look at it. But other than that, it's not a standing appointment for code enforcement or the fire marshal or the police to go by and check. I think that if it is an issue, then there are people in place to go check on that. Mr. Mayor, it looks like our planning services director has something to add here. Can she
Okay,
speak,
please.
Thank you, sir. With all due respect, I need more direction. We have vetted other communities. The planning board has looked at what an event is, what size event. We looked at, yes, we want a book club to come. Then it was, well, no, we want, and we have defined events. So it's gone through so many different versions. To make it very clean, take a vote on this, deny it, approve it or not, and then say, okay, just to say, please bring back a couple options. I want to know what those options really are, very firm, so that we can hit the mark. Obviously, we are not hitting the mark, and I want to, so that we can move forward with this, because there are two very different ideologies on what can happen or should happen at these. That's my request. Thank you very much.
Are you asking us then to change the motion to, and my motion would be then to vote no on this proposal, and then we come back and vote on whether we want to send it back to the planning board for other options? Is that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, I will withdraw my motion.
Okay.
And revise it to move to vote no on this text amendment.
Is there a second?
The motion is to reject the proposed zoning agreement, zoning amendment on bed and breakfast as on pages 28-34. And that's it. Language from the attorney.
Robert, I'm struggling too. I don't care if they have 30 book club meetings a month inside. It don't bother anybody.
Okay.
I don't want to have a party outside with 90 people and a 6-piece band. So I'm really struggling with this one. And I think
the more appropriate thing is for us to digest this. We've heard from this gentleman tonight, and we can bring it back to our next meeting to vote on it. Generally speaking, we don't vote on public hearings, although we have already tonight. But there's nothing wrong with us taking a moment to take a breath and digest what we've heard. And perhaps maybe we can come up with a clear motion in another month.
So I did make a motion. I'm willing to withdraw that motion and move to table for further discussion.
Well, we've had the public hearing. It's closed. You've had your discussion, and we can vote on it at a later meeting.
And Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
I would encourage, I think a good path would be an ad hoc committee of the board, maybe 1, 2 or 3 from each side, so that y'all can come up with an appropriate amendment to digest both sides.
Okay, who would like to serve on that committee?
I like that, Noah. Good job.
Who? Okay, Alderman Mosteller. Alderman Kelly. Absolutely. And Alderman Davis, did you want to serve on that, or anyone else that want to serve on it? Alderman Gross. Okay, there we go. Y'all have a book club and talk about it. Yeah.
Can we do that at one of the B&Bs in town so we can see what that would look like?
Yes, definitely hold it. I'm sure this gentleman, Mr. Mann, would love to host you. I think he said it's only $2.50 an hour, so we'll be glad to. Good discussion. All right, item I4, for those still following, it is this one should go quickly, board. This is a public hearing, zoning map amendment, Yacht Basin Parking Overlay District. I want to thank all the owners of land in Yacht Basin that have joined the Parking Overlay District, such a robust area for our local economy, and where locals and visitors alike enjoy the festive atmosphere of the Yacht Basin and make in particular summer memories that last all year long. I want to thank the next property owner who is desiring to provide parking for visitors in the Yacht Basin and is joining this overlay district. So I declare this public hearing open, and I call on Planning Services Director Maureen Meehan.
Thank you again, sir. So this is a zoning map amendment that is a request by the property owners to be included in the Yacht Basin overlay. The subject properties that are by the yellow dots on this map are zoned R10, located on the corner of South Caswell and West Bay Street. The parcel ID numbers are 237LF001 and 237LF002. The properties are located adjacent to properties zoned business district and zoned R10 with the Yacht Basin overlay itself. To remind you, the Yacht Basin overlay allows commercial parking lot with standards on the residential lots within this block itself. The underlying zoning remains the same as R10. They still would be able to develop their properties following the residential standards and any uses. They will need to follow the standards for the Yacht Basin overlay, which is surfacing. They must have pervious pavers or 57 driveway slate stone. The perimeters must be outlined bordered with wood beams, and the driveway entrance must include an apron, and those are outlined in the ordinance itself, and routine maintenance must be taken care of as well. The planning board has looked at this map amendment and finds it consistent with the 2050 comp plan and recommends approval of this map amendment.
Madam Clerk, is there anyone here from the public that would like to speak?
I do not have anybody, no.
Okay, anyone here that would like to speak concerning the parking overlay? Okay, I need a motion to close the public hearing. We have a motion and a second. Second by Alderman Spencer. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, we're out of public hearing. And board, any questions for Ms. Meehan or any comments?
Just one, Mo, that these property owners are coming to us and petitioning to join the overlay, correct?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, that's how we got here. They asked to do it. Any Any further discussion?
No, this is a
Entertain
good
a
thing.
motion?
That's all I gotta say. It's a good thing.
Yeah, very good.
So now all of them, all of that, those parcels will be in compliance. So that's a good thing. And since there's no controversy with that, can I go ahead and make a motion?
I was asking for a
Uh-huh.
motion, yes.
I would like to make a motion to approve the land use consistency statement and the statement of reasonableness and the zoning map amendment as presented.
Okay, we have a motion by Alderman Mosteller and a second by Alderman Davis to approve the land use consistency statement and statement of reasonableness and the zoning map amendment as presented. Any further discussion? Okay, all in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. Okay, item I5, and that is the public hearing for fiscal year 26-27 budget. The special Board of Aldermen meeting June 17th will be held for a vote. There'll be no vote on this tonight. For the public, and the budget I look at as 4 pillars for our city as we consider the budget. Pillar number 1, public safety, our fire, police, our EMS, public health, emergency preparedness, and our environment. The second pillar is promoting and maintaining infrastructure. Stormwater is our top priority right now. It used to be water and sewer, that's been regionalized, and then waterfront stabilization. It is being successfully going to be completed. So our priority now, stormwater, roads, our buildings, our parks, our cemeteries. We want a robust and efficient budget. We want competitive salaries and benefits for employees. We want excellence in service from all city departments. We want to support our local businesses, our local economy, our nonprofits, and volunteers. The third pillar is preserving our historic heritage, our culture, including our unique neighborhoods and fishing village atmosphere. And the fourth pillar is the enhancement of the quality of life, the preservation of the human spirit for all our citizens. I do not promote balancing a budget on cuts to employee salaries or benefits. I think we need competitive salaries and benefits. This leads to recruitment and retention of dedicated employees. This has value and overall cost savings. A healthier and happy employee population leads to higher performance and excellence in services and a better quality of work life. The city provides services. It is not a profit-producing enterprise, and we should provide what our citizens need and what is requested the best way we can deliver. And when possible, collaborate with our partner, Brunswick County, for example, on financing our EMS. An ad valorem tax increase is not an unreasonable request when a city is planning for the future. We are susceptible to hurricanes and storms. We can also use these funds for potential smaller stormwater projects, such as on Atlantic Avenue, and continue paving and repairing of roads. The overall stormwater solution, engineers estimate $30 million to replace existing stormwater and $60 million to build what is needed. We're looking to the legislature for assistance in fixing the stormwater issue at Moore Street, for Bonnets Creek, and for the overall issue, we would need bond financing, and that needs to be evaluated. We have goals and challenges, and we write a budget to accomplish these goals in serving the citizens of Southport. We also work on grant writing and asking the legislature for a larger amount of the sales tax Southport generates, as we are the downtown of Brunswick County and a center of tourism. Of note, we are not Oak Island with respect to the tax base, and it is not comparable, nor is the tax rate. Southport is unique in so many ways. We should lead in excellence in everything we do, including this budget. I declare this public hearing open, and I call on City Manager Noah Saldo.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. As everyone's aware, over the last several months and weeks, we've been working on the FY27 upcoming city budget. That started off with the board's budget workshop or strategic goal setting workshop in February, followed by our internal budget process of staff and department heads to present their proposals to me. Following that, I presented the board my recommended manager's budget at the end of May. And over the last several weeks, we've been working through 2 budget workshops with the board. Following the last budget workshop, it was the desire of the majority of the board not to have a tax increase this coming year. So staff has worked on that proposal, and tonight I'm pleased to say that we've been able to get to a balanced budget without raising taxes this coming year in the following ways. The most significant adjustment is coming from new insurance premiums. That comes from our North Carolina League of Municipalities insurance, which covers all of our buildings, vehicles, and other casualty and property insurance. After receiving a final quote from them over the last several days, we've been able to reduce that by up to $200,000. And the fire department is also moving to the League's insurance, which is saving approximately $70,000 as well. We have also reduced some part-time line items of salary in the community relations department without affecting that department's operations. We have also included the board's 7% community building revenue rate increase that you passed last week in last week's straw vote of that budget. So finally, we will only need an additional $68,000 of general fund balance on top of that to balance the budget with no tax increase. I will note, as I have over past meetings, that we anticipate appropriated fund balance to hopefully not be able to be utilized at the highest level that we will appropriate that, as we are hopeful our legislators will pass the new fire fee legislation in the next few weeks to offset those costs in the budget. The Southport Fire District Fee Committee met today and passed the 25% rate increase subject to the approval of the legislature. So following the legislature's hopeful adoption of that in the coming weeks, the county will adopt a budget amendment for their budget. We will come back with a budget amendment to reduce the appropriated fund balance in the city's budget once that is adopted. So happy we can get to a balanced budget tonight without tax increases. I will caution us that using fund balance overage is not necessarily the best practices, but I think since we will not hopefully need to be utilizing the full appropriated amounts, one-time expenditures will be acceptable in this year's budget. Following today's discussion, happy to entertain any questions or ideas the board has tonight, incorporating that into the public hearing, and then final adjustments and budget adoption next Wednesday, June 17th at 1 o'clock in Indian Trail. Happy to answer any questions.
Any questions for city manager?
Well, I just want to clarify. So there's a couple of things, as an example, line item 42,000.438 inspection permits. I'm struggling a little bit there because that alone, we're budgeting $220,000 less in this upcoming year than we've projected. That seems like that would help, right?
Tell me that line item again.
42,000.438. I'm sorry. Hold on.
What page number?
Let me get there. Sorry about that. On page 55, permitting inspections, the proposed budget is 605,000. 2025 actuals were 814. Year to date, we're at already 622,000. It just seems like we under budgeted there.
So that is with what we anticipate growth to be over this next year. So though we have seen increase this year in consulting with the building and permits department and most department, we wanted to conservatively budget that and not over budget that line. And I'll make sure Finance Director Joey, is that correct? So we can always certainly budget higher revenues, but making sure that we're, conservative on revenue projections since we have lost revenue.
I just think there's a couple of opportunities as a board. I just wanted to point out that there's a few opportunities where we might have been a little conservative, but we might actually make it up.
Right, for sure.
Anyone else? Any questions?
Just a quick question for Noah. If we see some significantly higher revenues come in on some line items, you can make a budget amendment during the year and we can adjust those, maybe reduce the amount being taken out of fund balance in lieu of increased revenues.
That's right, for sure. Just
Thank
like, just like the fire fee will come back and reduce, same concept as if we have other revenues that exceed our expectations, we'll do that as well.
Golf carts was another example.
Correct.
Golf carts, we under budgeted. I don't see golf carts. I don't see fewer golf carts on the roads next year than we have this
sure.
year.
Yeah.
So I would have at least budgeted what we've brought in year to date.
For sure. Yeah.
Anyone else with questions for the city manager before we,
Not a question, well, I guess, in this new budget, do we have the 4 police officers? Is it 2 police officers that were pushed back the 2 months? What do we actually have in this?
That's
new
correct.
budget?
So it's the 4 total officers, but spread out at the board's direction at the last meeting. So 2 starting in September, 2 starting in January. So spread out like the board had
I would like
talked
to
about.
see 2 starting in September and 2 starting the following July.
So that would be in next budget year.
Correct.
So 2 this year, 2 in 29.
Yes.
I'm not in agreement with that. I would stick with my preference would be stick with the January for the second 2.
I think at the workshop, we agreed on January start.
I don't
September
think we
start.
came to consensus. I think we talked about it a bunch, but we never came to consensus. And I think that what was mentioned in the budget during the last budget meeting was that while the January start, we only have to budget for half a year this year, we still have to budget for them for a full year next year. So I think that if in the interest of the budget and our future planning, we need to look at stepping in with 2 this year and then have the plan for 2 the following year, because we already are going to have to budget for an additional full year for those. So that's not something that is a one-time deal. We're committing to these people, not that we're going to hire them for 6 months. We're hiring them for a career. Hopefully they'll stay here for that. So when we're looking at trying to be fiscally responsible, it seems like a way that we can do that.
Well, and I appreciate that. I think that's our goal, right? That's what we're charged with. So one of the things, though, we have not raised taxes. We've gotten to that point. We're only committing $68,000. Is that the number? I'm sorry.
In additional for the regional.
Right. In addition, I think we've already made that up with some of our conservative calculations on revenue. As another example, Fort Johnston gift shop, do we think that they're gonna, I mean, who are we employing that their revenues are gonna go down 25%? So, I mean, why would we do that? I don't see Fort Johnston getting fewer visitors this year or next year than they did this year.
Right.
So though, I mean, we're gonna make up the deficit, in my opinion, based on the conservative figures on revenue from staff. I mean, so to further picket that, to what end? It's my question. Just to limit what we're taking out of fund balance, or?
I would really like for us to see to continue the 1 cent that had been earmarked for capital fund before, rather than digging into our pockets. I'd really like for us to continue to build that. And I think that was a great idea. And Robert, I think you had that idea last year to do that. And I think that if we're looking towards the future, we have to figure out where we can make it make sense to continue that, because we have big projects coming down the pipeline on us that aren't going away based on the number of employees we have, and the employees that we already have, we've committed to, and I want to give them all of the bonuses that we can. I want to make sure that they have a full health package. I want to make sure that working for Southport makes the best people want to come and work with us and stay with us. And in order to do that, I think that we need to make sure we're looking towards the future, and that 1 cent capital fund is really looking at that.
I will say something.
So are you advocating for a tax increase for 1 cent?
I am not. I am advocating for cutting the budget in other places so we can allocate that 1 cent.
I'll say something to think about, that if you do the 2 officers as we talked, we'll have to add back significant part-time and overtime. So there would be some savings, but it would not be 2 officers.
I think we choose public
Just something to
safety
think
over the
about.
fiscal responsibility here in that regard. I think that's important. I think that those, 4 officers, you've staggered them. And I think, to Alderman Carroll's point, we may be better off as we move through the season. But I think it's having the
I
4
think this was-
officers is good.
Alderman Kelly, I think this was part of our conversation. I think it was, we take them out, we save 80 and we put them back, and then we have to put back in part-time and stuff, and it's back to 70. So the savings is 10 grand. Doesn't
And-
make up the 1 cent we're trying to accomplish.
So the battle
Doesn't even
is,
come close.
do we want to let our officers make extra money, or do we want to protect them by making sure we don't overwork them? So the overworking part is where I'm at, is that they've got lives too. I'm sure they like the overtime, but we don't need to wear them out. So that's why I'm going to stick with the 4.
And I hear you, and I just want to bring this up. Part of the overtime is time going to court that I believe has to happen on days that are not patrol days, if I understand that correctly. That goes on the overtime rather than patrol. Can I? No, yes. I'm looking for an answer. Mhm. Okay. All right, so for those that didn't hear, the court date only applies for overtime for the night shift guys. So that way that's on record. Thank you.
I'm actually pleased with the amendments that Noah has proposed. I'm comfortable with them. Probably is the most conservative person on this boat fiscally. That should bode well, but I think there are opportunities for revenues higher than what were budgeted, Robert. I tend to agree with you. And certainly I would hope that would be the case. And Noah will come back with some amendments during the year, and maybe we can cut some of the amount of money we're taking out of fund balance. I agree with it. I'm in support of the budget as Noah revised it today.
Noah, I have one question. I think it's Public Works R&M facilities. It was 150,000 last year, and we've got it at 0 this year.
So that went to the capital fund. So that's where that will be this year, to take pressure off the general fund. I will also note within the capital fund, we had some kind of conversations with the community building upfit. So I've added about $100,000 there as well to redo the railings on both sides, as well as paint the exterior. So that's an additional change we've made there. But the capital or the line item you're referring to is in the capital fund. But there is a corresponding line that has been updated to take care of that as well.
So in their budget next year, we're going to see 0 and expect to do 0 again.
No, should be back in the general fund next year. I did that this year to avoid an additional tax increase in the general fund. But hopefully by next year, when revenue stabilizes, it'll be back in the general fund.
And just a reminder, we own 3 lots on 11th Street, been sitting there for years. We should have sold them years ago. Opportunity cost lost there. We own land in BSL. We've been told recently, what are we holding on to land we don't need for? Opportunity cost lost again. Let's get those three parcels on 11th sold, and let's get this parcel on BSL sold.
Okay, is there anyone from the public that would like to speak during the public hearing?
Rich Alt.
That's the reason why we don't have a clock, is that we had one at the mayor's meeting. That's a flashing thing. That doesn't tell me what I'm doing here. So my name is Rich Alt. I live at 6165 Cottage Creek Road. And I've already had this conversation with the manager, and I respectfully disagree with the manager. And we can do that without actually hating each other because we talk all the time. So the understanding is that the manager put out a budget back in May, I believe it was. And even as of tonight, in front of us, we had a workshop here on the budget. There is no way that anybody in the citizen group could have looked at the budget and come in here with fixed ideas of what was going to happen. Because you didn't come in here with a draft budget that you had all agreed to. You didn't even get your budget until noon today. So I don't think you can have a public hearing on it. So I'm just going on record to say that this was inappropriately done. Chief Coring, you and I have multiple conversations throughout the years, and I have the utmost respect for you. But I am going to question some things about the fire department, about the police department, and none of that means that you and I should hate each other. Okay. The part about the police department is, well, first of all, I have 30 years of police work, so my heart is with the police department. I still teach law enforcement around the world for the State Department, so I'm pretty used to this business. So trying to stick me in the eye and saying I don't know what I'm talking about. There was a number given, and I asked the city several weeks ago to help me understand the number, and that was the number of calls for service. It's been referred to in the meetings. There's a number. It's going up dramatically. But we don't know what those calls of service are. And you have to, if you're going to do this professionally, you have to understand what those calls of service are and break them down. Is it a call for service because I talked to somebody? Is it a call for service because I wrote a ticket? Is it what is the calls for service and how are they broken down? The key ones that you're really looking for is the call for services, that you would hope to have 2 officers to respond to it. We have no dialogue on that whatsoever. Time of day, what they are. And I've asked and unfortunately never got the response to that. So I don't know if the police department needs 4 new people because there was no ability to actually do the professional overview of what was going on. We just say it because we feel good that we're going to give them 4 more people. If they need 4 more people, I'm willing to give it to them. And I certainly don't want to cut anybody's benefits in the fire department, the police department, or anybody else. I don't want to go that direction. I think what was spoken today by the board, that they're all in favor of making sure we keep the best people around. That's a given as far as I'm concerned. But I'm really concerned about the process that was done by the board in trying to have a public hearing when we do not know what the specifics are what was the ask. I wouldn't be even amazed if what really was wanted was 2. We throw 4 in and hope for 2. But we don't know that because we don't have any of the stats. And with that, the rest of all the other issues that are here, in 3 minutes, you can't get it done. I bring that as the biggest one up. 2 things. One, I don't think this has been done correctly because none of us here can talk about the budget because you just changed it. And 2, we need to have a workforce analysis done every time a new person is asked for. That is the basic business model of all municipalities. State governments, federal governments, everybody does the same thing. But we are unique here in Southport and we're not doing it. And thank you very much.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. Anyone else like to speak in the public hearing?
Yes, I have a few letters too, but I'm going to alternate back and forth.
Okay.
Mr. Mayor, Alderman, I am unable to be there in person tonight. I do feel that I must say a few words concerning next year's budget. Our money and how it is spent is a concern to all Southport residents. In Southport, we have few, if any, sources of income except taxes. This makes what we can ask for very limited. In my opinion, want to haves no longer exist. What exists is must-haves. I realize that everything must be looked at. In my many years in the business world, I came to realize that any organization's most important asset is their people. Without them, you have nothing. Unfortunately, people are the first thing everyone wants to attack when looking at cost-cutting measures. Big mistake. Emergency services are always jumped on quickly. Police, fire, EMS, these are functions that save lives. Think long and hard before you consider any changes to these functions. We are an older community. Minutes matter when you are experiencing a health issue. My family had an issue last Tuesday. Help got to us in 4 minutes. We are lucky this time. My wife will be wearing a heart monitor for a month. 10 years ago, all my systems started shutting down. I was rushed to New Hanover Regional Medical Center, where doctors spent 6 hours probing. What my family was told when the surgeon met with them is blunt. He has a 50% chance. A few minutes longer getting him here, and you would have been an entirely different conversation. You would be talking to Peacock or Andrews about a nice box to put him in, and to Oakdale about bringing out the backhoe to section U, lot 2S, space 7 or 8. My point is simple. Seconds matter. The difference between 4 minutes and 10 plus minutes can be life or death. Choose wisely when you make these decisions. Good luck. You will need it. Frank Lay.
A very, very nice letter from Mr. Lay. Who's
Yep.
next, Madam Clerk?
Miss Debbie Barnes.
Debbie Barnes, 425 West Street, Southport. I wanted to talk about the budget just a moment, and it's two components. One is a department that I feel that has not grown like many others has over the years, and it's one that's vital. And I've heard you bring it up, and everyone time and time again. That's our police department. Our police have been great, but they are few. We have a lot more people coming into this town, not just those that live here, but those that come in every day. I think I've heard a number like something around 20,000 people come in a day. Well, they're dealing with that too. And I agree with what Rich Alt said about things that we need to be doing, but they don't have the resources to even do it. So at this point, I would like for you to please consider making sure that our police department is not impacted and can begin to build the way they need to, because there's more coming in. Okay. So anyway, that's one. Two, you talked about your pillar on the historic side. So I'm going to bring up the historic piece just a moment. And first, thank you for your comments. I did hear you and I understood what you were saying. We do need to look at maybe reducing cost. That is one that you're not going to have when you vote to remove the ordinance, which you will be able to do as this form of government. You voted to put an ordinance in, you can now vote to remove that ordinance. That's our form of government we have here. So I hope you will do that. And in doing so, I think we can do a voluntary group and using the great work that the commission has done, and we'll be able to put in place an advisory group that can make a difference. And I'll be glad to talk with the planning board and any of you on some of the things we've already done out in the community that's helped to preserve homes. Okay? How'd I do?
Thank you. Thank you. And thank you for your support of the police department. Madam Clerk?
To the Mayor, Board of Aldermen, and citizens of Southport, I am writing to express my strong support and appreciation for Fire Chief Charles Drew and the outstanding work he has done leading the Southport Fire Department. As a Southport resident, I have watched with admiration as Chief Drew has guided the department through a period of significant organization and professional development of the personnel of the department. While many citizens may not see the countless hours devoted to training, equipment, readiness, emergency planning, and personnel development, the results are evident through our community. One of the clearest measures of the department's success is its recent achievement of a Class 2 fire insurance rating from the North Carolina Office of the State Fire Marshal. The scale is 1 to 10, where 1 is the top rating. This rating is based on factors such as staffing, training, equipment, communications, and emergency response capability. Achieving a Class 2 rating places Southport among the better performing fire districts in the state and reflects a department that is exceptionally well prepared to protect lives and property. This is especially noteworthy given how difficult it is for small departments to achieve this status. Chief Drew has fostered a culture of professionalism, preparedness, and service. The Southport Fire Department's reputation for rapid response, community engagement, volunteer participation, and dedication to public safety is a direct reflection of his leadership. As an example, the Southport Fire and EMS response data are instructive, an outstanding average response time of less than 5 minutes for both. This is significantly better than the national benchmark of 8 minutes or less for the life-threatening events such as a cardiac arrest or stroke. Indeed, for the last two, the department's response time is less than 4 minutes. For a small rural town, this is a remarkable performance. Southport is growing rapidly, as we all know. Managing that growth while maintaining high standards of emergency service is no easy task. Chief Drew has demonstrated the vision necessary to prepare the department not only for today's needs, but also for the challenges that lie ahead. Public servants often hear complaints when things go wrong, but they do not always receive the recognition they deserve when things go right. I believe Charles Drew deserves that recognition. His commitment to continuous improvement has strengthened the department, benefited our community, and enhanced the safety and quality of life of everyone who lives in and visits Southport. I extend my sincere thanks and appreciation to Chief Drew and to the dedicated men and women of the Southport Fire Department for their service. Respectfully, Edward Glenn, Southport, North Carolina. And I have Mr. Siegfried DeSchmidt again.
Okay, thank you, Madam Clerk. Yeah, Mr. Glenn and I are kindred spirits with our bow ties.
Okay, here we go. Good evening again, Mayor, members of the board. So now I can read my prepared speech. Thank you for that. My name is Siegfried de Smet, 319 West Brunswick Street. I respectfully request you to vote against the proposed 2027 budget. The city faces a systemic financial budgeting problem, as evidenced by its own historical data and expenditure trends that we have analyzed and shared with you. These trends indicate a consistent misappropriation of taxpayer funds and a failure to allocate the necessary resources for infrastructure and stormwater repairs. Instead, they all are directed to ever-increasing personnel costs. Let me summarize some of this data to make my point. Revenue opportunities are limited by state law or self-imposed restrictions, so we won't talk too much about revenue. What we do control is expenses. The proposed general fund has increased by $4.6 million, representing a 43% increase since 2023. That's only 3 years ago. Increase of 43%. This entire increase was spent on personnel costs. This entire increase of 4.6 million over 3 years went to personnel costs. The fund balance Our saving account, intended to assist the city in navigating and operating during extreme and damaging emergencies, is being depleted to balance the budget. Personnel costs constitute the largest portion of our general fund and now account for over 71% of Southport's operating budget. For every dollar the city spends, 71 cents goes to the compensation of our city workers. In 23, this was 59%. In 2016, it was 40%, or only $2.6 million of our general fund against the $11 million for 2027. For 27, the total personnel cost is projected to increase by another $729,000, or a 7.2% increase. The number of full-time employees in 2027 is 91, an increase of 19 FTEs, or 26% increase since 2022. And this excludes the 24 part-time employees we currently have. The average base salary per full-time employee has increased by 73% since 2023. These trends and practices are not sustainable and are not in the best interest of the taxpayers. We have offered you multiple ideas, solutions, and options over the past months to address the financial challenges, reorganize the city's operations, and become more fiscally responsible and effective stewards of the taxpayers' money. While I observed some tentative attempts, the overall common sense advice was largely ignored. Myself and other seasoned, retired professionals are available and willing to help or answer any questions you may have. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Madam Clerk.
I am writing to express my concern about the proposed 26 to 27 budget. As my family are taxpayers and the owners of 210 West Bay Street, I am deeply concerned about the potential impact of this budget affecting city employees, especially first responders. First responders play a crucial role in providing essential services to our residents during challenging times. The city's decision to fully staff EMS in the recent 2024 budget was made by the city, who recognized the value of this service. As stated in the October 23rd, 2024 Stateport pilot article by one of our aldermen, this decision was a decision our citizens are willing to invest in. Comparing Southport to our neighboring cities is unfair because of the exceptional emergency services provided by the Southport EMS, which our neighboring cities do not provide. The difference is a 3-minute, 45-second response time from the Southport EMS during a life-threatening event can save lives, while a 11 to 12-minute response time from the county can be fatal. Cutting their benefits demonstrates a lack of care and appreciation for the invaluable contribution to our city. While you have mentioned employee retention and morale, I believe this proposal will only have the opposite effect. Instead of contradicting yourselves, I urge you to consider this action and explore alternative cost-saving measures. For instance, you could eliminate unnecessary and unused contracted studies on city-related issues. There are likely other areas where the board could tighten its spending without compensating the well-being of our city's heroes. Please take the time to carefully consider this decision before making a final choice. Sincerely, Heather Hamilton, 210 West Bay Street.
Who else, Madam Clerk?
Bonnie Bray.
Hi, Bonnie Bray. My husband and I have lived at 515 Quartermaster Drive at the end of St. George for the last 9 tax years. I'd like to use the property taxes of this house for the basis of my encouragement to the aldermen to resist the current cries for lowering the property tax rate. Resist. We live in Southport for a variety of reasons. Top of the list is the fact that city government takes its duty to provide services seriously, and we feel as though we, who receive those services, have a stake in the quality of life here. It takes money to provide those services, and we don't mind paying our share because we also use our share of the services. I submit that the tax burden we share is not a burden at all. When we moved to our current house in tax year 2017, the tax rate was 29.56 cents per $100 value, where it stayed for the next 5 years. And then the next 2 years were kind of up and down, and until the elected officials in 2024 raised it to the current rate, which is 31.5 cents per 100, with 1 penny of that going to dedicated to fixing some long-term capital improvements. The total burden shared among us to fund government operations independent of these much-needed capital improvements then is 30.5 cents per $100 value compared to 29.56 per 100 9 years ago. So we are literally a penny different in that 9-year span. Meanwhile, during the same 9 years, the assessed value of my house doubled. I'm paying $984 more in taxes because of that fact, not because the tax rate is 1 penny higher. When you average, all right, in real terms, when you average the 984 increase in taxes over 9 years at 12 months a year, it's 108 months, the increased amount represents to us $9 difference per month for 108 months. But when you look at the increase in value of our home, that boils down to $2,800 every single month over the 9-year period that our house has increased in value. $9, $2,800. I think it's a no-brainer. People want to come live here. It increases the value of our property. Keeping the tax rate where it is or increasing it incrementally even. I'm not suggesting that this year, but it is a win-win for us, my husband and I, other property owners, and all the people who enjoy living in Southport. Thank you.
Thank you.
Madam Clerk.
Dear Mayor and Board of Aldermen, I have heard there's an attack on Southport EMS and talks have started about cutting these essential services. I have lived in Southport for over 25 years and I want to express my sincere gratitude for the help I have received from the Southport Fire Department. I am 93 years old and I live alone. I rely on the quick response and the compassionate care that I received from the Southport Ambulance Service. There are many times I have fallen and they are at my residence within 2 to 3 minutes to help me up. There have been times when I needed my smoke alarm batteries changed, and they are just a phone call away. The Southport Fire Department and EMS have always been an exceptional service to the taxpayers of Southport. One of the main reasons that I moved to Southport was the reputation of a stellar emergency response system. I do not want to wait on the county EMS for 15 to 20 minutes when I call 911, nor do I want to wait on a Brunswick County Sheriff deputy if I need the police. The Southport Police Department are wonderful too. If I wanted the county service, I would live in the county. I came here for the excellent service. That is why I live in the city limits of Southport. In closing, I support the Southport Fire Department in continuance of their EMS service. They need to be funded and supported, not attacked, not underfunded, or their budget cut. This is a retirement community. Wait until you have a heart attack or a stroke. Then you'll be glad to see the Southport EMS show up to save you. I may be 93, but I can rally up some senior citizens to stop this come election time. I love this lady. Thank you for your time. Sincerely, Lily Mae Yates. I need to meet her.
What a name, Lily Mae Gates. Yes, beautiful. Thank you. Who's next, Madam Clerk?
No, that was all, I believe. Have I missed anybody?
Okay, anyone else that had wanted to speak in the public hearing and concerning the budget and did not? Okay, please, Chief.
I'm Chief Goring, Southport Police Chief. Mr. Alt, I appreciate your comments, and of course, you used to be our mayor, so you should know my door is pretty much always open. I want all our citizens to know that. And I thought about not even coming up here, but since you addressed me and, I've been staying off of social media. I have Facebook, but I don't read all these other platforms because it's not good for my health. I'm not saying this for no kind of pity party. I'm just telling you, I don't take this job lightly. And I knew that asking for 4 people would be a lot. And I've been to a lot of training. This is 28 years this year. I've been a police officer, 35 years being a fireman. Been to a lot of training, but I know the critics we're never going to be trained well enough. I'm not smart enough as everybody thinks they are. But when it comes to the Southport Police Department, I'm asking for 4 officers because I need them. Not because I might need them. You can come look at the numbers, Mr. Alt. I presented a budget to them. I also presented a workload analysis, that fancy word a lot of people like to use. And I do respect you for being in law enforcement, but you called me out. And it's online. The answers to most of your questions, if not all of them, should be there, sir. But you called me out. So I'm just saying, I'm an open book. Yes, sir. You can come. So again, I hope I've answered all of your questions. Any citizen, they can come to my office and, and the numbers are there. Whether people think us getting out and getting a tree limb out the road. I've had citizens calling me asking me, are we defunding the police? That we're inflating numbers. Not that I've read it, but I've been told this. I don't read it. But I just want you to know, and our citizens that are listening and here before me, I'm not making this stuff up. The numbers are the numbers, whether it's a service call where we are helping someone out of their vehicle, whether we're stopping a car. I wish I could get a lot of great comments. We don't hear a lot of comments. Hey, I appreciate y'all stopping us. We ran that stop sign. We don't get a lot of that. And Charles is behind me. We don't put fires out and we don't bring you back to life. Unfortunately, we write you a ticket. So again, thank you for your comments. I do respect you. You know that. I'm not mad. I just felt like I needed to come up here because when people toss things out like that, if one person hears that and they start thinking, what is the chief? Does he really need just 2? So he's asking for 4. That was one of the first things I learned in leadership. When I became a lieutenant at our sheriff's office, they sent me to a leadership course, and so that was one of the first things when we did a budget course. They told us, don't ask for anything that you don't need. If you need 2, you ask for 2. If you need 3 cars, ask for 3. Don't ask for 6, hoping to get that. So again, thank you for your consideration. I am very proud to be the police chief here in Southport. So thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Please, Chief Drew.
Thank you. Thank you very much. September 27th is forever etched in our mind. The first responders that responded to American Fish Company, Southport Police, when my fireman got there, there was 1 police officer there from Southport. She cleared the building because the other police officer that was on duty was transporting a prisoner. We need these police officers. We can't afford to have another shooting and have 1 police officer. I mean, that speaks volumes. My guys could not even go in and begin to treat patients until a Boiling Spring officer got here to assist the police officer that was there and clear the scene. That's how important this stuff is. Everybody wants to make jokes. I was in a fire fee meeting today, and it was said to me because I'm involved with historic preservation, that people in the historic district are afraid that I would delay response and let someone's house burn down. This is how vicious and vile and evil Southport has become. That I would delay response in the historic district and let somebody's house burn down. That's what was said to me today. Or that our fire marshal would fine someone in the business district because they're against historic preservation. That disgusts me and it insults me. It insults my integrity and my professionalism. I would never, for 35 years of my life, I have dedicated myself. I have crawled inside houses that were on fire and rescued trapped people that I did not even know. I would never compromise the integrity of the Southport Fire Department because I support what the red shirts don't support. You know, we have a democratic society and we're all allowed to have our own opinions. Just like Mr. Alt said, that doesn't mean I hate you because you have a different opinion than me. But don't be so vile and evil to try to come against us and say that we would compromise our professional integrity and risk someone's life. That's our job. That's what we do for a living. Not only have I spent 35 years of my life as a firefighter, I've spent the last 40 years of my life in the ministry. I pastor a church and I offer spiritual care to people in this community. For 40 years, I have dedicated my life in service to other people. And you know something? I was so insulted today by that comment in the fire fee meeting. And it takes me back to know I don't live in the Southport that I used to live in. I don't live in the Southport that I grew up in. And for the first time in my life tonight, I can say I'm glad that my grandfather, Billy Drew, is dead. I've never said that before, but I'm glad he's not here to see the Southport that we've turned into.
Thank you for your comments, Chief. And Chief, I was at that meeting, and as you know, what I said immediately was that when some gentleman, they didn't know him, I didn't know him, but Southport Fire and EMS went down to the river, and one of the officers jumped in the water and rescued that man, and your group saved that man's life. You didn't know who he was. So if you would do that, you're certainly not going to let anybody's house burn down. That's just ludicrous, and I agree. And the numbers that Chief Coring that you showed us, there's such a dramatic increase in calls, such a dramatic increase in the number of people that are in Southport every day. They say 20,000 a day. So, and then the dramatic story of the unfortunate shooting that night, one police officer down there. So public safety is crucial. Our emergency services, our fire, our police, our EMS, our emergency preparedness, so vital. And we appreciate all that you do. So thank you. If there's no further comment, I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
Alderman Mosteller and Alderman Kelly, all in favor? Okay. The public hearing concerning the budget is closed, and then we go to item I7 will be the electric rate adjustment. I declare the public hearing open, and I call on Manager Noah Saldo.
I'd be happy to have a vote.
Notice we won't be voting until Next week.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the board. State law requires a separate public hearing for our electrical rates whenever we're adjusting those rates upwards. As we've been discussing through the budget process, there's an 7% include adjustment increase due to the passing of costs from Duke Energy to Electric City to the city. So it'll be adopted, the 7% increase will be adopted in the city budget along with the fee schedule, but state law mandates a separate public hearing. So that's what we're doing tonight. Thank you.
Is there anyone that'd like to speak on the, I thought I did. I did? Okay. I think it's open, but if it's not open, I thought I said it initially. Is there anyone that would like to speak on the, come on, someone, the electric?
Yes,
Electric
Ms.
grid?
Debbie Barnes.
Okay. I thought you only get one topic, isn't that right, clerk? Just kidding.
Debbie Barnes, 425 West Street. In regards to the electric rate, I know enough to be dangerous. I've done no research, okay? I'm just going to throw something out. We got involved with Electric Cities Co-op many, many years ago to bring electricity and stuff in. We have a grid. I think we still have the electric grid. Do we still own it? Yes, I thought so. Here's something I'd like you to consider. We're not in the business to be an electric company. I feel like maybe we should look at the options of selling our electric grid to one of the bigger groups, the real electric companies, and getting the money to pay off that debt with electricities. And in doing so, I think our electric rates would wind up being more comparable to what you see elsewhere. What's happened, I haven't seen or read anything about the other cities having a big issue coming from Duke that caused the electric rates to go up 7%. So I'm only speculating. I have no proof. I said I didn't. I put it out there, Karen. At the end of the day, what is the driver of that rate? It's going from Duke, that's what I've read, going from Duke to the electricities, and it's passing on to us. Why is Oak Island and everyone else not having a big issue about a 7% increase? So, you know, at the end of the day, the electric grid, whether it has anything to do with that or not, maybe that's a way to get some money back into our bucket and not have a debt. Anyway, and on another note, Charles, I respect you. I admire you. And I've told you that in person before, and I'm saying it again. I think the division that has occurred here in our city is between people having something being placed on them that they did not want, the majority. I know you want to stop, but it needs to be said, just like I know Charles had to say what he said, and I agree with him. But the people, just because they wear a red shirt here, it's not being vile. They just wanted to be seen.
This is a public hearing on the electric.
Yeah, okay, and I said it, and I thank you, Mayor, and I thank you for tolerating it. But I felt like I needed to let Charles know we love him no matter what.
So Miss Debbie, thank you.
About the
Thank you.
electric.
Can I?
Oh.
I was next.
Is there anyone else in the
Can I?
public? Yeah, you can, but I'm gonna close the
Oh.
hearing and then the board. Yes, anyone else?
No, that was all.
Okay, great. Motion to close the public hearing. Oh, did Tyler, did you want to say? Okay. Motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Okay, a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, the public hearing is closed. Alderman Carroll.
So Noah, can you address Miss Debbie and some of her questions? Because we did, Miss Debbie, have a conversation about the concept of selling the So we've had that. It was in an open meeting. Some of that has to do with timelines. So in order to sell, we have to give them notice, and we have to give them notice 5 years in advance or something to that effect. And then the current contract lasts through 2040, if I'm not mistaken. And in order to get out of that contract, we got to give them 10 years notice that we'd like to get out of that contract. I'm all on? Okay, so just, I know, I wasn't here then, but, but I probably, but, but also as it relates to how competitive we are with our rates versus those offered by BEMC. Can you talk on that at all?
Yeah, and Tyler Mike can jump in as well. So the debt you're talking about specifically has already been paid off through Electric City, so we no longer pay for that. So that it is. That's right. Yeah. So when talking with the other managers in other cities, they have steadily raised rates over time and have been able to absorb it as costs where we have not raised rates, and we're not able to absorb the cost in this budget. Part of the reason is the underground project. So once our infrastructure projects are done, like the underground projects, then I think we will see a more stable rate. Certainly as Duke is in the process of a large rate at the Utility Commission now, I believe it's 18%. So if that passes, then we could see additional increases, but a large portion of the budget this year is going toward the underground and our transformer project. So once that's done, I believe rates will stabilize, and then we can start building the fund up so we don't have to raise rates large over time.
And then they sold some facilities in the eastern section of North Carolina, which helped pay for these things, help for it to get paid off. Is that correct? Isn't that what we remember?
The nuclear plant, our interest.
That's right. Yeah, we got a credit back on that.
And to be clear, this is not a Southport rate increase per se. It is coming from, it's a pass through that they are passing down to us.
Right.
So that's not.
You might want to talk to the Utilities Commission, because that's who allows them to do their rates. And also just keep in mind, we have at least $20 million more of underground that need to be done.
And that was just for the B&Bs, right? Bed and breakfast. So that's why y'all had me here. All right. So this will be adopted in the budget, as part of the budget. Okay. Thank you. Any further questions for the manager? Okay. All right. Okay. Great. Yes. We certainly can. It was in right. Yeah. That would be fine. That'd be good. Okay.
Well, the terms start July 1 or at the end of the, do you want to add it to? Okay.
17th?
We'll have to renotice it, but we can do that. To the budget meeting.
Okay. That is a.
Can I bring something else up? We're gonna have to clarify what we want.
So I'll go ahead and make a motion that we move item 8 to 7 and push 7 off until our June 17th meeting.
Motion to move item I-8, the Brunswick County Schools bond referendum letter of support, and we'll move the board and committee appointments to our meeting on June 17th. Is there a second? Second, by Alderman Kelly. Correct. Yes, ma'am. Any further discussion? Okay. All in favor? Any opposed? Okay, motion carried unanimously. Thank you. All right. Item 7 will be the Brunswick County Schools bond referendum letter of support. It's in the state constitution that we educate our citizens, and this bond issue is important, and I believe most will support it in Brunswick County. But whatever discussion you need to have, board, on this before you vote, please go ahead.
My request to move it to the regular agenda was simply a process issue. the school bond may or may not pass. We don't know. We don't know. And certainly school bonds of any sort, school bond, whatever, they're needed from time to time to address high dollar, long-term infrastructure needs, to divide those payments out over time, obviously. And that obviously helps hold down, it can actually hold down the tax rates as well. I'm not opposed to the letter, colleagues. I think we should make sure that it's sort of neutral. We endorse having the referendum. Let the citizens, do their research, find out the facts. We've heard the facts because we've heard the presentation from the school board on a PowerPoint. And as I recall, we noticed some schools needing to be built, because we're approving 50,000 more units in Brunswick County. Who would have guessed that we need more schools? We know that Southport Elementary is going to be getting a new PA system. We know there is the possibility that the county tax rate could go up 8%. However, by the time these schools get bonded and we start making payments, it's hopeful that the tax base in Brunswick County will have increased significantly. So maybe the 8% will not be needed for a county tax hike. But I think, those facts, we all know about it, but I don't know if the citizens and the voters know about it. And then it'll be up to them to learn about these facts between now and November when the referendum is put before the voters. But again, I'm not saying I'm against the school bond. I just think we should be careful to the way we word that letter, Mr. Mayor, just to make sure we're sort of neutral. And yes, it needs to be a referendum, and the voters need to speak and make the decision.
I tend to agree with Alderman Gross on this. The verbiage I was actually looking for earlier is not at the end of the letter, it's the beginning of the letter. I am proud to voice our strong support for the Brunswick County Schools bond referendum. So I agree that I would love to see the referendum on the ballot. I just don't necessarily want it to appear that we want everyone to vote yes for it. I would like for the public to make their own decision. And during that presentation, I did bring up to the representative from the Board of Education. I was asking questions about what Southport Elementary was getting. And yes, my children also attend South Brunswick Middle School. So I also asked about the bleachers at South Brunswick Middle School, if you remember that as well. But I don't want this to be something that looks like we are all for this. I would like for it to look like, yes, we would like for it to be a referendum, but for the citizens to make their own decisions when it comes to that.
Could we get a revised draft letter and vote on it on June the 17th?
Why don't we vote on the letter? Let's see how many board members support it and those don't.
Hello. I'm certainly receptive to us making it more neutral.
We support the referendum vote. Point blank, we support bringing it to a referendum vote.
So the motion is want to revise the letter, have the manager revise the letter to support the referendum vote, but that you would like to sign it, your neutral Southport Board of Aldermen. A lot of courage there. All right, so there's a motion to revise the letter. No, we need a motion. It's time. So go ahead.
Revise the letter. I move to revise the letter to support placing the bond issue on referendum, and that we put this on the June the 17th agenda?
So I'll say it's already going to be on the ballot. So we can say we support that, which is fine, but I don't think it materially does anything. So we can do that if that's what the board's will is, but it's not going to materially support it being on the ballot because it's already going to be on the ballot by vote of the commissioners. So
They're looking for our endorsement,
that's correct.
which I'm comfortable myself doing, but I might be a party of one of you.
Well, no, you're not a party of one. I support, I endorse it too. I'm supportive of it. Yes.
I support the referendum as well.
So motion to approve the letter as written. Yes, sir.
Well, I mean, I made a motion, but it didn't get a second, so that.
I was sorry, y'all. I would make a motion to, oh, you made it? Then I second it. Thank you, Mark.
So Alderman Spencer made a motion to
What's your
support
motion, Mark?
the letter as written, second by Alderman Marcelo.
Well, I'm
Any
not
further
going to vote
discussion?
for it because I don't want to tell people how to vote on this because they haven't heard all of the sides of this.
We're not telling them how to vote. We're just saying that we support it.
I am proud to voice our strong support of the Brunswick County Schools bond referendum. I don't know that that comes across as neutral.
The school board is looking for this board's views to support the referendum. So whether you want to support it or you don't, they're just looking for the board's opinion either way. So that's what they're looking for.
Call the vote.
Could you repeat that, Noah?
So the school board is asking for municipalities, business owners, individuals to voice their support for adoption of the referendum in November. So that's the purpose of this. I think if the board is not comfortable in saying that we support passage of the bond, I think it's a moot point and we should not do anything.
We have a motion and a second. If you do not want to support it because for whatever reason, then vote that way. If you support it, vote the other way.
Was there any other language in there, Rebecca, that I don't have it in front of me, but that you feel like was not neutral?
Yeah, I think that to the manager's point, it's either we say that we want people to vote for it is essentially what this says, or we keep our mouth shut.
I haven't seen the referendum language.
They made a presentation.
Made a presentation, but that wasn't on the ballot yet. So what is the language on the ballot?
It's on the ballot will be the school referendum, bond for the school referendum. It'll be yes or no.
Bond.
Yeah.
The bond, it was like 340 million, 340 some million. Is that not right? Somewhere in that
there.
ballpark.
Yeah. Okay, so all in favor of the letter? Is that 3? All opposed? 3 nay. I'm voting with the those that are for the bond referendum letter, and the motion passes. Thank you. All right, so we're at a point, board, where we can recess. And motion for a recess till June 17th, and we'll have a motion to go also into closed session to consult with an attorney employed or retained by the public body in order to preserve the attorney-client privilege between the attorney and the public body, which privilege is hereby acknowledged, and also to establish or instruct the public body staff or negotiating agents concerning the position to be taken by or on behalf of the public body in negotiating the price and other material terms of a contract or proposed contract for the acquisition of real property by purchase, option, contract, or proposed employment contract. So it's a motion to recess to June 17th and then recess at the end.
Well,
Okay.
and I'll, Mayor,
What?
The disclosure.
We also had to disclose for Jason Robbins for his
Disclosure.
request.
Oh, yes, yeah, the disclosure.
So pursuant to the public comment disclosure request, the property portion of the closed session is related to an offer received by the city for request of the city to purchase a non-address parcel, which is parcel ID 238HG02705, a 2.16 acre parcel next to Low White Park owned by Craver Properties LLC.
And the purpose?
To see if the board would like to purchase the property or not.
What would be our purpose in purchasing?
We have not been, you have not identified that yet.
That's part of the reason why we have to go into closed session to discuss.
What is, we're going into recess?
No, we're going to go into closed session.
I'm sorry?
Motion.
Okay,
So moved.
yeah. Yes.
All right, motion to come out of closed session?
So moved.
We have a,
Second.
we have a motion and multiple seconds. Thank you. All in favor? Okay, we're out of closed session. The board took no action. We'll be taking no action with respect to the closed session. And I'll ask City Manager Saldo to
So
wrap it up.
I would request a motion to recess this meeting, subject to reconvene Wednesday, June 17th at 1 PM in Indian Trail Meeting Hall and cancel the previously noticed special meeting.
So move.
Second.
That was very good. Thank you, Manager. All in favor? Motion carried. We'll see you on the 17th, 1 PM.